Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is a brand new episode of Bets and Banter, and we are coming at you live talking about UFC London. It's going down on Saturday from the O2 Arena, and we have a returning UFC welterweight champion, none other than Rocky Leon Edwards. If you've been rocking with this channel for a long time, you know Leon Edwards cashed us in big against Kamaru Usman inside the distance. We were very big on that position. So it's a lasting memory for the channel, but now it's a whole different challenge, a whole new opportunity. We've got Sean Brady, grit and guillotines, the Irish American way. He is going to provide a formidable challenge, I feel, in this main event. So I'm excited to talk about the fight. I'm excited to talk about the card, and we cannot do it alone on Bets and Banter. We always got to have a great guest. So without further ado, let's bring in the man, Wizz, back in the building. How are you, my brother? We have a lot of people that have been asking about you in the comments saying you got to keep bringing Wizz on. A few people in the Patreon as well. So, my brother, without further ado, the floor is yours. Welcome back.
First and foremost, thank you everybody for requesting me back on. It's always fun to chat fights with Liam. And Liam, thank you for having me on again and listening to the fans. It's always a pleasure, and I'm excited. I have a lot of interesting takes this week. Last week, again, we crushed the card, and I wish I didn't hedge out of that chitty bet. I was very, very confident in that one, but I've tried to listen to myself a little bit more this year on weight misses with people who have bad cardio. Just, I don't want to put myself through that. I've done that mistake a lot last year, and better safe than sorry, but he still came through. For those who didn't hedge out, congratulations on that well-earned cash. But looking forward to another great weekend with the UFC London.
Yeah, and one thing that I always emphasize with my breakdowns is there's more than one sharp way to look at a fight, right? And sometimes we talk about live betting angles. Sometimes we talk about pre-betting angles. I thought that Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos had a clear grappling advantage. My eyes did not deceive me, though. As I see him out there failing some takedown attempts, I'm like, yeah, this is not going to work out, is it? So I start live betting into the other side, right? I actually posted it on Twitter. I was like, that was a fun live experience. And it's chitty plus 165, 85, whatever it was, all the way up. And then the fight not to go the distance, all live at plus money. I was like, yes, yeah, please give it to me again. Yeah, absolutely. Because I was like, if he's not getting into the ground, it just felt like he was live to get knocked out in this fight at a pretty high clip. So I always talk about paths for both sides. I always try and envision paths for both sides. And that was a great opportunity to get plus money in two different directions. I was thinking to myself, right now, I got shitty up on the scorecards. I'm still getting plus money. And I was like, and by the way, it's like he's beating his ass. Like at some point, he might just knock him out. Plus money here. If for some reason he makes a mistake, he gets tired, he falls over, Easy gets on top and he gives up the submission. Okay, give me the plus money there. So it just felt like if I have plus money on both these outcomes, something's going to pay me out here before all said and done. And that's what I love about live betting. So obviously we hit those angles live, but in our pre-betting discussions, right, when we come to the show, we try and give you guys all of our thoughts so that way you can come to these conclusions and say to yourself, man, he's not getting takedowns. He's not even looking for him. Maybe we got to exit out of an easy Dos Santos type position. So just wanted to say we're going to look to do the exact same thing this week, right? Talk about all of our thoughts on the fights, and hopefully it turns out to be some profitable information when all is said and done. So without further ado, guys, let's get into it. First fight of the night, we got Guram Kutateladze taking on Kaue Fernandes. We'll have Wizz kick us off as I set up the Tapology page. What do you think about this one, brother?
Yeah, I think this one is just a very straightforward fight. A lot of people, including myself at first glance, I thought this line was pretty wide, and it might still be kind of wide. Kaue Fernandes, not really the most impressive UFC run. Coming off of a KO win against Muhammad Yahya, that doesn't speak too much there. Guram coming off of a win here, and then the two losses that people try to discount him on are against some pretty decent competition. You look at a guy in Damir Uzmagulov, who at one point we considered to be a top 5 talent in the lightweight division, and then Elvis Brenner, someone who's just uber tough, was just able to outgrind and outlast Guram, still give him an honest fight. I do think, though, that Guram's going to have a massive speed advantage in the striking here, and just overall a striking advantage. Skill for skill, I think wherever this fight goes, Guram has Kaue covered. Uh, I just think that he's going to be able to just outpace him for 3 rounds and win a decision here. Kaue is tough, so I don't expect him to go out that easily. But I do think that Guram is the rightful favorite. Uh, Maybe minus 2xx, a little bit more accurate, but definitely not a dog or pass spot by any means. I think it's just Guram or pass here. What do you think, Liam?
This is an interesting one, Wiz. I always talk about skills are definitely important, and it's something that you got to consider when you're capping fights because more often than not, skills are going to be what wins a fight or loses a fight. But we also know that there's a lot of other intangibles in mixed martial arts. For example, your hardware, right? Some people are just built differently. So yeah, you'd like to have good striking defense, but some guys just take clean punches to the face, tank the damage, and come forward and kill you. It's like, okay, yeah, we are not all made equal in that regard, right? So everybody has these different advantages. And I do think that Guram is maybe a little bit, you know, on the chinnier side. I don't want to be disrespectful. He's obviously a very talented fighter, but a guy who's been hurt, in a lot of the UFC appearances that he's made, in a lot of, the lead up to UFC fights, right? He's had a difficult time making it to the cage, staying healthy, staying in competition. So all those things give me a little bit of pause always with a guy like Guram. Not to say that he's not a great fighter. Absolutely he is. But let's go back and review his odds history. He comes in against Gamrot. He's a plus 260 underdog. He overperforms in that spot. Word on the street is that Gamrot was severely hurt coming into that fight, sick as a dog. Like, nothing was going right for Mateusz Gamrot, allegedly, according to the American top team camp there. And, at the end of that fight, if you remember, he was like, I did not win that fight. I apologize. I am sorry that they raised my hand like that. I did not deserve to win that contest. Like, Mateusz won the fight. So Guram wins the fight in that instance, but he didn't even think that he deserved the win. So he cashes as a plus 260 underdog, and people fell in love with him. That was in October of 2020. Flash forward to June 2022. That's the next time he appears in the UFC. He loses a split decision to Damir Ismagulov. He's a plus 190 underdog. No sweat. And to your point, like, we all thought highly of Damir Ismagulov, but how did that turn out for Damir? Like, it just didn't end up working out, right? And so a lot of that you could attribute to maybe a lack of marketability. UFC doesn't really know what to do with him or how to advance him, but also Grant Dawson just audited him for 15 minutes. So that was a big piece of the puzzle as well. And then we've seen, it's not like Grant Dawson is like a 1-to-1 going to dominate everybody. He fights like Bobby Green, one punch, sit down, see you later, and he hasn't won a fight since. So you kind of look at contextually, I don't know what to make of that win. Like, Damir obviously is not a bad fighter, so you give him credit, quality win. But was it the best version of Ismagulov? It's like, I don't know. So loses a split there. All right, 6-1, half dozen of another. Then we move on to the Elves Brenner fight, minus 670 favorite. So a comparable example, right? He's a massive favorite. He goes out there. He's having success. So one other thing I talk about, it's like somebody that can't sustain their own success. This guy is out there having the fight of his life. He's doing well, having a lot of success. Looks like he's got it all figured out. And then as soon as the ball starts to get rolling the other direction, it kind of just falls off a cliff. So minus 670 loses there. The Vucenic fight, he's a minus 198 favorite. So he's favored again. Vucenic, a short notice opponent, comes in, made a very good account of himself. So how much of that is Vucenic is a really good fighter? I think that's one point that we want to raise, but I think the other question is maybe Guram is just a little bit overrated by the market. Then let's go to the other side, right? So now we take a look at Kaue Fernandes on the other side. And he comes in as a plus 175 underdog against Mark Diakese, UFC debut. He loses that fight as a plus 175 underdog. And Diakese, for as boring as he is, he has just ridden a couple guys to decisions, and he got fouled really bad against Joel Alvarez before Joel Alvarez got the finish there, right? Like, my man was getting fouled this way, that way, and the other way, and then he eventually capitulated. But, you don't have to be a Diakese fan to recognize he's clearly a talented guy. And then you look at, okay, Muhammad Yahya, that fight really tells us nothing. He's a minus 360 favorite, blows him out of the water, did what was expected of him. So now I think that the jury's still out on Kaue Fernandes. What I always talk about is there's a risk curve, right? And it's like when you're betting big underdogs, you're stepping further out onto that risk curve where, I bet on a couple underdogs last week that really didn't have a hope or prayer in hindsight, right? Like Daniel Barras, tough as an old leather boot, right? Fought his ass off, gave a great account of himself. He just didn't have the ability to beat that guy. It was like he was going to have the fight of his life to beat that guy. He was going to have to get off on a better start. He was going to have to get a takedown early. Like things were going to have to really just play out right for him. I think that Cody Gibson made a phenomenal account of himself as well. Just it wasn't enough on the night, right? Damon was not going to be denied. Damon starts slow, gets into some bad situations, finds a way to rally back. So I'm always willing to take big dog shots and then just evaluate the results. Are they going to fight hard for my money? That's a question I always have. This guy didn't capitulate against Diakese, right? He was in some tough situations. He's getting ridden out. He didn't offer the most sophisticated resistance you've ever seen, but kind of just got out wrestled. I'm really not sure that Guram's going to try and press that here, though I do think it's a clear path to victory. So then it's like, all right, if they're just going to bang it out on the feet, like lightweight striking contests, like 4-ounce gloves, those kind of things all just scream to me it would be a little bit more towards a dog or pass situation, because I don't trust Guram, despite having a skill advantage, to if they go, let's say 3-2 on a striking ratio, right? Where Guram lands 3, Kaue lands 2. Am I confident that Guram doesn't get hurt by one of them at some point in 15 minutes and fall over? That's the one thing for me that leaves a little bit of intrigue to this contest. So I think right guy's favored, to your point. It's a degrees question for me. And he's minus 198 against a short notice Vucenic. Now he's, a more substantial favorite here against Kaue Fernandes, who still has a lot to prove, but who did fight a pretty solid regional, set of opposition. So let's find out. I think Guram comes from the better pedigree, better camp, rightfully favored, but he's still got a lot to prove to me because he's a guy that's underperformed, I would say, so far to his UFC expectations. Even that Vucenic fight, for as good as Vucenic was, Vucenic was a couple mistakes away from winning that fight, right? Like he definitely made a few like big errors that cost him there. And, people are going to start taking notes on Guram Kutateladze. The more you're out there, the more footage people have to study. And I think that there are some holes in his game to pick apart now. But we've spent plenty of time on this one. Unless you have something to add, my brother, we can move along to the next one.
Nothing at all. I wouldn't consider putting Guram in any parlays just for that chin liability reason.
Yeah, because, we look at Elvis Brenner. Elvis Brenner obviously has some skills and some abilities, but most of what he's got is like toughness, willingness, keep coming forward, keep attacking, be aggressive. So if Kaue Fernandes can replicate some of that, he can have some success here. But if he's gonna feel the weapons coming back at him and not want to keep coming forward, then it's gonna be an easy night for Guram Kutateladze. Next up, my man, we've got a battle as old as time. Caolon Loughran taking on Nathan Fletcher, a rematch here, and I think that this is an interesting one because on the one hand, I'll just be honest, man, I'm not a Nathan Fletcher guy. Was not impressed with him at all on The Ultimate Fighter. I came away thinking Zigomantis Ramaska was going to be live against him, and that did not work out. But if you look back at Con Offley and how he was able to win that fight, man, he outdogged him, he out-cardioed him, he out-hustled him, he out-grappled him. Like the things he's supposed to be good at, he was getting out-positioned there. And so I said to myself, Ultimate Fighter, a little bit of a bias sample, right? Obviously, the Ultimate Fighter, we see a lot of guys come in and, they have to perform a little differently. It's a tournament format. You got to fight multiple times, all these different considerations. But I think that when you look back, like the same problems that plagued him there, the getting tired, the making positional mistakes in the grappling, getting out of position, taking damage in inopportune times, all those things cost him in the Wooding fight back in Cage Warriors as well. So it's like the same kind of patterns have emerged where it's like you bring this guy a hard fight 15 minutes, intensity. You keep making him work through grappling positions. You don't let him settle. You don't let him feel like Zigomanis Ramasco, with all due respect, was like, please get me out of here, man. Like, I'm tired. I'm fatigued. I will give you this arm, head. Get me out of here, dude. And it just didn't seem like he was offering very competent resistance. I think Caolon Loughran's fighting for his job in this one. I don't think the same thing is true for Fletcher, right? But it just seems to me like this is a show up or take it back to the regional scene and retool it type of spot for Caolon Loughran. And he does have some functional skills. I mean, when it comes down to it, body size, body type is important when it comes to wrestling. I think for grappling purposes, having a long body, being long can be very helpful. For pure wrestling, having those long levers, long limbs, it can help some people. Some guys make it work. A lot of guys like short, stout, quick to the draw, lower center of gravity. All those things can be very helpful in wrestling exchanges. And I think Caolon Loughran kind of checks those boxes. So he's lost to this guy before, which, number one, that's a huge motivation factor, right? Sometimes you get a little overconfident. You beat somebody before. And meanwhile, they're like sitting at home every day thinking of you like, oh, if I get this one back, this is the one. They're training, thinking about you. They're looking at your tape. And I think that a guy like Nathan Fletcher is a beatable opponent. So for me, the plus money tag, Caolon Loughran's a click for me in a must-win fight. And I ultimately think it's going to be competitive, but I think Caolon Loughran's going to get the job done. So interesting fight. How do you see this one?
Yeah, as you said, this one's a rematch. Fletcher took the first fight, very close margins. Now, a couple of things to note. In the Ultimate Fighter, Fletcher was fighting at featherweight. This bout is going to be taking place at bantamweight. And when we look at Caolon Loughran's last fight, where he moved down to bantamweight to face Hadley, and Hadley was moving up from flyweight, I want to say most of the people on MMA Twitter, I want to say most people in general were betting the Loughran side, and that was just a big letdown spot for Loughran, where people thought he was going to be able to take Hadley down at will, basically, and he wasn't really able to do that. And he got outboxed at range. Did not look good. I think one of his fights where we talk about this a lot, where you overperform or outperform in a loss. And the fight I'm pointing to is the fight against Taylor Lapilus, where in that 15-minute basically striking bout, he was able to land some takedowns, but it was predominantly on the feet. He was able to take it to Lapilus and really make that fight close. People started to overrate his striking a little bit. I'm not really impressed with Loughran's striking all that much. And his wrestling really is reliant on power more than skill, I would say, which it could work against Fletcher here, but I think Fletcher is more suited towards the bantamweight division. And from the first fight, I do think that Fletcher's hands have gotten a lot better. Now, I still don't favor him in this fight. I do think this line should be more of a coin flip, minus 115 apiece, just because I think it's very slim margins for either guy. Wherever this fight goes, I think they almost match each other. In the striking, I would give it to Fletcher, but in terms of toughness, Loughran has a brick for a head, and he can take a bunch of shots. And I do think that Fletcher is going to be the one that's going to be pressing the offensive wrestling here. And if you can get Loughran on his back, I just don't know how easy it's going to be for him to get up from Fletcher. I do like Fletcher's jiu-jitsu game quite a bit. But for the most part, I think this is a pass fight. I can't really seem to pick a side here. If I gun to head, I was going to say Fletcher, but not interested at any margins to bet this fight or to pick a side, just because of, I think both these guys are almost like a mirror matchup to each other. But as you mentioned, Caolon Loughran could be fighting for his job at this point, so that is a little bit of added motivation. But for me, this fight's just a stay away. So I'm picking Fletcher to win, but by no means am I confident in that take at all. I think it's just going to be as close as the first time.
I think the English tend to back their fighters with dollars, so I would like to see like a bigger plus money tag on Caolon Loughran to get involved, and I do think it's possible we will get there. So for me, that's kind of my plan in this spot, is either to wait for a live entry, if I don't get the number that I want pre, or to just see if the numbers pop up pre-market. Because oftentimes, if you're looking to bet a dog, live or late are the two indicators I would look for. Very early, that's one way to get dogs, but often it's built up parlay liability that generates the best price for underdogs, especially on main cards, things like that. So a couple things to keep in the back of our mind. But with that being said, guys, let's move along to the next fight where we got Shauna Bannon taking on Puja Tomar. And I believe you're up first for this one, Wiz.
Oh, man. This fight, put it at the main event. We have Puja Tomar going up against Shauna Bannon. Last time out, we saw Puja Tomar go up against Hayani Amanda, who by no means am I going to consider her the best striker in the world. And then Shauna Bannon, has some flaws of her own. I think she's starting to lean a little bit more on her wrestling and grappling. And I think that can serve her well in this fight, going up against someone who predominantly is a Muay Thai kickboxer as well. And Puja Tomar, when looking at some of Puja's fights in one championship, I mean, I was kind of impressed with some of her performances on the feet. But you add an extra element of wrestling in this fight, which I think will cause her to either be a little bit more gun shy in throwing her strikes. But I just don't see a world where Shauna Bannon doesn't land multiple takedowns here and just stall out the fight and win a boring 3-round decision. If Puja is able to defend the takedowns, then I think she has quite the advantage on the feet against Shauna, because Shauna mainly looks to kick, and I'm not really impressed with her hands all that much. And so at range, I think Puja is going to be able to really press her against the cage. And if she's able to get on the front foot, it's going to negate some of that wrestling threat from the Bannon side. But lower level women's MMA fight, not too interested. So this is a pass all around for me. But if Puja Tomar does get to plus 2XX in terms of a betting line, I might get involved. I just think that if she's able to really press Shauna against the cage and not be on the back foot, she can get off on a lot of her striking, and she has some decent kicks, so that slows down the wrestling too. So I think it's Tomar or pass, but I would like to get a bigger line than where it's at right now, around the plus 160, plus 170 range. Get me plus 210, plus 220, I might be more interested.
Yeah, I think we're going to largely see this one the same way, my man, except maybe to say, I respect Shauna Bannon, and what I want to say is she's a good Irish lass, so obviously we're rooting for her on a personal level, right? Like we like Shauna Bannon in my household. We're always rooting for Irish fighters, a product of the Paddy Houlihan martial arts gym. So certainly there's some things to root for about Mama B. She gets hated on viciously, in the MMA commentary space because her fights are typically boring and she's not very good at MMA despite having a long background in martial arts. But when it comes down to it, man, this game's about dollars and cents, right? And against Rayanne Amanda, I had said, do I think Puja Tomar is going to win? It's going to be close, probably just going to be an ugly fight. But when it makes dollars, it makes sense sometimes, Wiz. And I think Puja Tomar is better for business. In the TKO era, Paddy Houlihan, Paddy Houlihan. Now I'm crossing wires. Paddy the Batty Pimblett, right? You guys go back and watch. Dana White is sitting there with Dave Portnoy before the decision gets read, and they're about to decide whether Jerry Gordon beats Paddy Pimblett, and he looks right at Dave Portnoy to basically go relax, because Dave Portnoy is about to shit his pants because he's like, I just wasted all my fucking money. And then as soon as they read it out for Paddy, you see them both just get these sly smiles, bro. I'm telling you, whenever you want to have your theories and speculations about the UFC, there are plenty of opportunities to do so. Puja Tomar against Rayanne Amanda. Most people that observed the fight were like, yeah, Rayanne Amanda probably got that one, eh? And then they raise Puja Tomar's hand and you go, it's a business, huh? And that's the way that it goes, right? And then we all shake it off, move on to next week. That's the way it is. So when I look at it, is Shauna Bannon slightly better? Sure. So maybe I make her a minus 120. Do I think she's a devastating finisher? No. Do I think she's a incredible grappler? No. That's the bottom line. So I think she's very average at everything. I think she's a little bit more assertive on offense. She might have a little bit more of a fan section, but honestly, I think that's debatable in and of itself. So for me, I just feel like Puja Tomar, I don't know if people understand the gravity of her like reach. I always track things like social media numbers, and I know people don't care about those things. I care about them. I try and keep track of these things just so I have a feel for how big of a star you are. And one thing, it's no mistaking why they put Alex Pereira in a lot of winnable fights when he's got millions and millions of followers on Instagram and everybody that goes Tama. And when you have catchphrases and shit, you're going to be in pay-per-views. You're going to sell tickets, right? So I think that you look at Puja Tomar, it's one of the most followed athletes on the card, 497,000 followers on Instagram. I think we've got one fighter with over 1 million in Leon Edwards, right? The main event and the co-main event, you can hardly scratch together those kind of numbers. It's like, I don't think people realize sometimes the scale of people. So for me, again, narrative isn't everything, right? But it's a low-level women's kickboxing fight where I feel like they're probably going to go, ha, and kick at each other and kick at the air and have some fun out there. And, the crowd's probably going to go, buy a beer and come back and, give a little bit of reaction. I don't think it's going to be a very highly contested fight. So do I think there could be some grappling upside for Bannon? Sure. Why not? But do I think she's like a high-level jiu-jitsu ace that's going to go out there and implement a grappling craft and embarrass Puja Tomar? Honestly, I don't. So, yeah, I think it more often than not goes the distance. I think more often than not there's a lot of key eyeing from distance with a lot of kicks that don't land. And I think that, let's say Puja Tomar lands one or two side kicks that put her onto her butt. That's the fight, So for me, it's just a dogger pass situation. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, the UFC have tried to push the narrative with the Indian fans with my guy Anshul Jubli, but we've seen how that has turned out. So let's
hey, all they can do is put you in a winnable fight. If you want to know whether the UFC wanted Mike Breeden to win that one, he wins the fight and he got the walking papers the same night. He's literally in the hotel room like, yeah, I won. And they're like, yeah, dude, never show up here again. Thanks,
not to mention, I think he's fighting this weekend in Dirty Boxing.
There you go. Hey, he got right back on the horse. He said, you can't keep a good man down. So he's going to be barking on your television screens on Saturday night. Speaking of, is Andrey Pulyaev going to be barking on our television screens on Saturday night? He did bark on Tuesday Night Contender Series as a dog last time out. Now Christian Leroy Duncan in the driver's seat. Massive favorite here, minus 550 on Christian Leroy Duncan, the man they call CLD. Big favorite, but hometown guy taking on a UFC debutant here. CLD lost his steps up in competition in the UFC. He's otherwise treated competition relatively accordingly, but I will say, for me, he's been a little bit of a letdown in terms of the violence quotient. I think RoboCop in hindsight is like a super winnable fight for him, and he's just not the most aggressive and most assertive guy, and defensively he's still got a lot to be desired. I think both in the striking and in the grappling, there's more than one way to get to this guy. So for me, for a guy who's not as assertive as he ought to be, minus 550 is a bit presumptuous. I'm always a guy that'll make a case for a dog. I don't think Pulaev's the greatest fighter I ever seen, but I will say I also made the case for him plus 700 to win by decision when he was on Contender Series, and he won by decision, right? He's kind of just like one of these guys that'll go out there and, he'll throw a little bit with you, he'll mix it up a little bit, he'll grab along the cage. Like, is he the greatest fighter you've ever seen? No, but is he bad anywhere? Not really. He's kind of just like an all-rounder, Almost reminds me of I'm trying to think of a good analog for him. He's like a very shitty version of Ankalaev, right? Like Ankalaev is pretty good everywhere, right? He can hurt some people, he can land some big shots, but like a lot of what he does is just find a way to win, even if it's close, a lot of those Ankalaev fights, if you go back and revisit, they're 29-28 decisions, but he just wins them, and I think Pulyaev has a way of winning fights, kind of lulling his opponents, breaking him down into these slower paced fights where he feels more comfortable. But I think CLD has been a victim of, you're not just fighting your opponent, you're fighting yourself. And I feel like he just is not the most confident fighter. Confidence goes a long way. So we'll see how confident he is at the weigh-ins and at the face-offs. If he looks like, I'm going to blow through this guy, that'll tell me a lot. But if he's kind of doing the reserved, scaredy cat look that he kind of has in his eyes sometimes before these fights, I'm not going to dig that, honestly. How do you feel about this, Wiz?
Yeah, I think, with all due respect, I think they're giving Christian Leroy Duncan a layup here. And the line indicates that. It's not a hot take at all, but the one thing about Pulyaev, he's not really urgent when it comes to the wrestling and grappling. I think that's really how you're going to beat Christian Leroy Duncan, if you're someone who's less skilled than him in the striking. And even then, if he is able to land a couple takedowns, his control is not all that great. The biggest red flag here is that Pulyaev just likes eating punches to the face, and Christian Leroy Duncan likes to serve him. I do think that Leroy Duncan at some point in this fight will find a finish. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a knockout. He's not really like the submission kind of guy, but not the hottest take, not the most passionate at all here. But I just think that Pulyaev may be, reaching a little bit too high in this matchup, and the UFC just wants to give the hometown guy a easy win. And you know what's funny? This is just completely off topic. They seem to always have both Duncans together on the same card, which has confused a lot of people in the past, like casual bettors. Like, oh, we're parlaying Duncan, and they're like, oh shit, I just parlayed the wrong Duncan, and
it's a trap.
It definitely is a trap. But yeah, I know, short breakdown here, but I do think that Duncan finds the KO here, probably round 2.
Yeah, I always like to say, when I have a strong feeling versus when I don't really have a strong take on this fight. Gut feeling was just a little wide on Pulyaev. That was how I felt when I looked at this, but I will do my own research. This is an article fight. I will write my article. I'll have more clear thoughts on this matchup, but this is the kind of fight where Pulyaev, I taped him for Contender Series, and, I did obviously my due diligence at the time, but this is his UFC debut. I want to go back and revisit it. My guy Pepe says, bet the Duncan sub with a winky face. I think I've done it in the past and been disappointed, so I should definitely do it again. So I don't feel the FOMO if it hits this time without me, but I'll have to do my own research for that one. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to the sharpest chat in the game, guys. We got 48 people rocking with us live on YouTube. Hopefully more will continue to join in as we go. Want to just say, we have been stagnant in terms of our subscriber count on YouTube for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Guys, hit that subscribe button. Let's fire up. Let's make sure that we're here each and every week to enjoy these fights and enjoy the breakdowns. I always want to hear from you guys as well in the sharpest chat in the game. So shout out to y'all. Let's keep the ball rolling here with the next fight up. We got Marcin Tybura taking on Mick Parkin. Massive disparity in experience, but also a massive disparity in age. Mick Parkin, 29 years of age, 39 for Marcin Tybura. Tybura, the proven, tested UFC veteran. How do you feel about this matchup, Wiz?
Yeah, so this is actually the first bet I locked in of the week. Before I even get into it, let's go ahead and start talking about both fighters here. Mick Parkin, someone who predominantly we're used to being a stand-up fighter for the most part. He does have some credentialed jiu-jitsu background, but doesn't really use it all that often. And what we
Eduardo Neves, he cashed me that plus 170, brother. That's the only time I think he's ever grappled in the UFC.
That is the only time. And we kind of know what to expect from Parkin. He's going to be a volume, or not a volume striker, a striker who tends to just pick his shots. They're more pitter-patter, doesn't really have too much power behind them. 10-0 record, looks shiny and looks nice, but when you look at the names, let's just take a look at the last 3. Lucas Bresky, Caio Machado, Mohammed Usman. Not really the shiniest of names that he's beating, and most of those fights were close. And Parkin is a guy who we're used to seeing his cardio be very hit or miss. Sometimes it shows up, and sometimes he's just gassed by midway through the second round. And then you look at a guy in Marcin Tybura who, sure, his durability is not all that impressive. But one thing that I will give him is in that last fight against Jonathan Deniz, he took a lot of punishment and was able to stay in that fight and was able to get his game plan going, to find the takedowns and get the W there, come back. And I was on the Deniz side. That one hurt. I do think that Tybura here is a really good bet, especially at these dog odds. The line just flipped. I think that Tybura is going to be able to land takedowns here, and once he gets on top, I think he's going to be able to cause a lot of trouble for Mick Parkin, landing ground and pound. And I do think he eventually will find a sub here. So I'm on the Tybura money line. I'm on Tybura sub. I just think that Mick Parkin does not have the power that's going to deter Marcin Tybura from walking forward and pressing him against the cage until he gets those takedowns. If Parkin had any semblance of power at all, then I wouldn't be as confident here. But this guy hasn't seemed to hurt anybody in the UFC. And the way he fights is he accepts pressure. And against Tybura, who's going to be looking to take you down, it's going to be a matter of time. So I like the heavyweight grappler here in Marcin Tybura to get the W and hopefully land us that sub too.
Hell yeah, brother. I definitely think Marcin is live here. I just hate the pricing. Right now you're looking at like a pick'em price, and I do think like Marcin probably has more upside to look like a big favorite in this spot. But the things that I think are red flags on Marcin are as follows. Number one, even in his prime, like when he was a more athletic guy, when he was a younger guy, when he was a little bit fresher, his chin was like hit and miss. Like some days it was there, some days he'd get hit by a guy who's not like a particularly heavy-handed heavyweight, like a Gusto Sakai, and he's just unable to stay with the fight. Then other times you see like he finds a way to will himself through getting hit like 82 unanswered by Romanov and then come out and beat him 2 rounds in a row. It's like Marcin Tybura just has that ability to rally against some guys. Even Greg Hardy and these guys were hurting him. He's the kind of guy that is very fragile for me, but finds a way to win because he's got real skills. In this fight, the one thing that makes me feel he may struggle is Mick Parkin in that Neves fight. Like you can tell Neves is a better grappler than Mick Parkin. Like he's taking him down, he's throwing him around, he's trying to get on top and establish a dominant position. And Parkin was just like slippery enough, and like he understood that the emphasis that you need from the bottom position is to not settle and to keep moving. Right? If you continue to do that, it actually is really exhausting to try and hold somebody down. If you try and take somebody down and they just accept like, oh, I'm on bottom. Okay, very easy for me now. I'm like, okay, now I just grab a wrist, take a deep breath. Like we're all cool in the game. But if I have to continuously try and bring you back, it starts to get exhausting for me. I do think if Marcin is getting like clean takedowns into dominant positions, it's going to bode very well for him. I just worry about what this fight looks like if he's not getting those, because diving into guard submissions is like it's a red flag at any time, any place, any weight class. But like at heavyweight, when you're a great grappler and you're diving headfirst into guard subs against the guy that you completely audited years prior, it's like that's for me a bit alarming, right? It's like shows a little bit of regression over time. And the other thing is the Tuivasa fight. I thought he was going to beat Tuivasa. But how that fight looked is really gross, even in hindsight. Like, because Tuivasa looked like a shell of himself. He's looked like a shell of himself for his last few performances. But when you look at, like, how that fight played out, it's the closest he came to beating anybody recently. Because he had Marcin bloodied up. He was landing good shots. But to your point, as soon as Marcin got one takedown, the fight was over shortly thereafter. I don't think Mick Parkin is ready to just give up like that, right? Like, again, the Neves fight, you get taken down, big Brazilian dude on your back when you're both dry early. Sometimes that doesn't go your way. He keeps getting back up, keeps finding a way. And Neves was the one that got tired from setting a grappling pace he couldn't keep. Then you look at, all right, Mick Parkin, 10-0. You got to teach an undefeated guy how to lose. So, like, do I think he's just going to give it up if he gets put in one bad position on bottom? I do not. But I think that we saw in the Denise fight, like the one thing about Tybura is, man, he's a sinister guy on the top position. Like, not only is he looking for grappling, but he's a very smart fighter. He's looking to damage you from the top position. And that's, for me, where I would be concerned for Mick Parkin giving up the submission would be if he's getting pounded, turns his back, and then gives it up. But I think it's going to take Tybura beating some enthusiasm out of him. He's young and undefeated, so I think that you got to teach those guys how to lose, man. And that's the one thing that I like about Mick Parkin is keeps finding a way to win. Simple game plans, goes out there, takes the fight that you give him, and looks to apply his craft. So I think that this is where the rubber is going to meet the road for him. It's going to be his hardest UFC fight. Certainly wouldn't lay a chalk price with him, but I think he's going to go out there and compete. I think it's going to be an honest fight. So for me, this is the kind of fight where you have Marcin Tybura queued up in the live betting window, right? And if he goes even to a body lock, right, you just hit enter. You're like, all right, now I live with the result. But if he gets decked from distance, I do not want to be a part of it. So I'm like, all right, I will wait for him. All right, we've established contact, and he's bringing him to the ground. Enter. That's what I want. So I will be looking for my potential Tybura live bet. But I think I have to keep my hands clean to this one, brother. Volatile heavyweights for me. Anything you want to add here?
No, not at all. I mean, the only thing that worries me is obviously the 10-year age gap, but it doesn't prove to be all that important at heavyweight. But we'll find out.
Hell yeah, man. And we'll also see if experience is a factor, right? Because Marcin Tybura, about as experienced as it gets for a UFC heavyweight, both in the promotion and as a heavyweight overall. So
absolutely.
All right, man. Next up, we got an absolute banger. This one is going down in the flyweight division. I think that we have you starting us off with this one, Wiz. Loughran Kavanagh, Felipe dos Santos. How do you feel about this one, man? Great matchmaking by the UFC.
You know, I've always said Loughran is one of the better Cage Warriors prospects that the UFC have brought in, but there's a glaring, I'm not going to say hole, but just a glaring issue in his game, and it's similar to one of the fights we spoke about earlier, is that the guy just continues to find ways to get dropped and get hurt. Felipe dos Santos is a guy that will come in with much better strength of schedule, more experience, especially just preparing for a camp, although on short notice against Manel Cup, that still is something. And Felipe dos Santos, sure, may have over or outperformed in that loss, still looked really good, and he's a long, big flyweight for the division, and Loughran is on the shorter side at 5'4", going to be giving up 3 inches of reach here as well. I do think Loughran is going to be much faster in the striking against Felipe dos Santos here. That's my big worry, but I do have to say this line is pretty wide. I would line it Loughran more like along the lines of -220, 230, not closer to like the -400s. So I took a stab at the Felipe dos Santos money line here. I do think that he does have multiple ways of ending this fight, whether it's by knockout or whether by the grappling decision-based win. I just think that the speed will be a little bit worrisome for Felipe, but if he's able to stay at distance and keep his range, he can cause a lot of problems for Loughran. And all it takes is one to win the round. If he's able to drop him in round one and then find a way to squeak out another round, you're going to be looking really good holding a +300, +320 ticket on Felipe dos Santos. So I would be wary of adding Loughran to any parlays. He is skilled everywhere, and I do think that he has a bright future in the game, but he still has yet to prove it to me in terms of just his overall skill set when it comes to the big level. So give me Felipe dos Santos money line.
Sorry about that, guys. I wanted to bring up an interesting point here off the rip, which is, this is my social media A-side report. I make this every week, and I post it on Patreon and everything. And when you look at what stands out to me this week, there's a lot of A-side underdogs first and foremost, right? A lot of popular fighters that are booking at dog money this week. And one of them, Felipe dos Santos, right? And I think recency is a part of this. You look at the guy, he's got 122,000 followers, nothing to sneeze at. Loughran Kavanagh, by the way, a guy that I think has a lot of marketability, a lot of upside long term. That knockout of Antoine Ho, I mean, frankly, you can't start a better highlight reel than that, right? It's fantastic. Excuse me, just 33,000 followers. So a much smaller profile. Both these guys are how old? 25. They're on the right side of 25. So, or I should say that they're on the right side of 26. Really, they're on the right side of 30. What do I mean? They're prospects. They're very young. I think that there's a lot of margin for error. When you're out there and you're a young guy and you're taking a lot of risks and you're throwing hands, I mean, listen, if you go out there and you wrestle for success and you dominate positionally, that is the thing, in my view, that justifies you being a massive favorite in martial arts fights. Like, there are times when somebody is so much better at striking. They're so much faster. They're so much more durable. They hit so much harder that they should be a massive favorite. For me, those times are few and far between. If you punch and kick people in the head, neck, and chest, sometimes they go unconscious, whether you're the hardest hitting guy or not. Guys, go back and look at what we all said. I think a lot of us very sharply, right, in the lead up said, listen, one of these guys, Kutateladze, has clear finishing upside. Who had clear finishing upside in the end of it? I mean, maybe both of them, but like Marvin almost put him out in the third round and Roman won 4 rounds to 1. It's a stupid sport. It's a crazy sport. You got to just roll with the punches, man. Shit happens, right? So if we're going to acknowledge this is a wild, crazy sport, we've got a guy at minus 300 who most of the time is going to go out there and trade blow for blow, mix it up on the feet. And we saw he went out there and absolutely cleaned up a great prospect in Antoine Ho. And we all got to just say, hey, take your hat off to the guy, clap it up. Like, what a performance. Then he goes out there in a UFC debut. He's a massive favorite against Ochoa. By the way, who was Ochoa before that? Just a guy, right? Just, could have been you or me. Like, obviously, he's a good fighter. You look at his record, good fighter. He's going to project out to get wins in the UFC. Solid. But who was Jose Ochoa before that? He's just a guy. And so now you've got a guy in Felipe dos Santos who has had up and down moments in the UFC. Certainly it's been, some very positives, right? Go out there, fight close with great fighters. That's good. But on the negative side, going out there and having shitty performances where you're getting taken down a lot, maybe not looking so proficient at getting back up to your feet. Is Lonnie Kavanagh the guy who's going to go out there and take him down, press him to the ground, hold him down, exploit the fact that he doesn't have great takedown defense, doesn't have a great get-up game? I don't think any of those things. So I think Lonnie Kavanagh is probably going to go out there, use the fact that he's very fast and very clever and very creative on the feet to make this guy miss and pull him into shots and hit him very hard and land some great damaging blows. But I think he's going to get hit in return. I think there's a chance that he could get wrestled a little bit in this fight. Like, I don't think Felipe dos Santos is a complete zero in terms of his wrestling and grappling. I think Lonnie Kavanagh, if you watch his first fight to his most recent fight, he's gotten exponentially better at wrestling, grappling, defense of all kinds. Still a work in progress though, right? Like still not where he wants to be to compete for the title. I think on the feet, he's like a guy that's like, wow, the skills blow you away. Clearly very talented. On the ground, you're like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, there's a lot of the right pieces. He's a clearly athletic guy, but I think that there's just a lot of unanswered questions for a young guy who, in my opinion, underperformed his last fight relative to expectations. He's still got a little bit to prove, right? And I think they're trying to set him up. Hey, this is a guy you could beat. This is a guy you could go land some strikes on. Maybe you could see if you could put this guy on the highlight reel. But he's the kind of guy that if you don't put him away, he's probably still going to be in there, probably still going to be biting down, probably still going to be trying to make you fight for it. And like I said, he's kind of had inconsistent performances, but at his best, the best version of him that we've seen, he's going to go out there and make this an absolute dogfight and a scrap, in my opinion. So hard to know how to price it, but I feel like it's a dog or pass situation at the numbers. That's what I got on this one, man. Anything you got to add, Wiz?
No, I think we both summed it up pretty well. I just think that the line is really wide, and it's hard to back someone. And we gotta say this: although he's from that side of the country, he's representing China. So,
Hey, we've got the younger guy who is the bigger fighter with more professional and UFC experience. That checks like a lot of boxes for me for an underdog play. And it's not like it's plus 120, right? It's a big plus money number. I'm going to see where this peaks out at. And I might have to get involved with some Lipe de Tona and just live with the results, man. If you just bet into Brazilians that are bigger, younger, more experienced at massive plus money over time, I feel like that's something that will pay you off handsomely. So
plus EV.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good angle. So I'm gonna look to continue doing that. All right, man. Next up, we got Jai Herbert, the Black Country Banger, taking on Chris Taco Padilla. And Taco, the much younger man here, 29, taking on the 36-year-old Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert, the bigger fighter, 6'1" compared to 5'9" for Chris Padilla, and a reach advantage as well, 77 inches compared to just 74 for Taco. Man, Taco comes in, a little bit undersized in a couple of these lightweight fights, man. You see a lot of lightweights cut a lot of weight. They're big guys. And I think that, it pays some dividends, right? Like having the length, having the reach, you could touch and not get touched. But man, when you get touched and you cut all that weight, you don't take the damage the same way. And I think one of the like unsung aspects of Chris Padilla's success recently, especially, has been a lot of these guys he's fighting are cutting a lot of weight. Maybe they don't take the damage as well coming back. And he's very locked in. He's very focused. So he's a guy that stays dialed, right? And I have ADHD, right? So I kind of see sometimes guys that lose focus out there, and it like immediately clicks for me. I'm like, oh, he's not even paying attention. Like the guy's out there, doing his taxes or whatever. He's literally like doing something else while the fight's going on. Chris Padilla is locked in on his work, man. The guy is like 100% dialed, and that's something that I like to see from these athletes. I think that Jai Herbert, he's another one of these guys that has made a bad habit at times of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, right? Like guy who's clearly very talented, but he could have somebody on the ropes and find a way to lose the fight. He could be up 2 rounds and find a way to lose the fight. He's one of these guys that's kind of found a banana peel and slipped on it before, right? And maybe at 36 years of age, with a couple steps down in competition, he's finally figured it out. He's ready to, make that emergence forward. He's clearly fought well with good fighters, right? But Ilia Topuria, at the time was still cutting his body down to 145, right? He's still a guy that was keeping himself a little bit smaller than he otherwise would naturally be. And Jai did a great job of landing a big left high kick. He's not the only guy to ever hit Ilia with that strike, by the way. Like every style has a solution, right? It's like a video game where there's always like one character that has the move that can counter your character. It's like, yeah, that's kind of just like fighting in general, right? It's like, yeah, if I have a great boxing style and I do a good job moving in and out and ducking and dipping my head, like if somebody fucking punts my head while I'm doing all that shit, it's not going to feel very good for me, right? So even if I do everything right, fundamentally, that's the reason why mixed martial arts is cool, right? It's like, it's not just one thing, right? It's not just boxing where I'm swaying and moving and whatever, and I don't have to worry about somebody punting me in my head. I have to worry about that too. That's what makes it fascinating. So I think that when you look at a guy like Ilia, he showed a boxing-centric game plan against a guy in Jai Herbert who's got a kickboxing style, and he had to make some adjustments in real time because he was like, whoa, I just got scrambled. Like, let me mix in my wrestling. Let me show my depth of mixed martial arts skills. That's why I love the sport. Then you look at a guy like Chris Taco Padilla, on the other hand. Man, he's a guy that clearly has so many tools in his toolkit, and he pulls them out at whatever time he needs them, right? It's like, he just has this ability to like see like this is what I need right now, and he's very opportunistic. I love that about his game. I talk about all the time finishing instincts. There's some guys that try and force finishes, man. They couldn't finish somebody to save their life, right? In anything, right? They're like the over swinging, looking for it too much, so everything's predictable, everything can be seen. it can be evaded. Taco Padilla, you never know what's coming next, right? And even if you do, sometimes he'll get you to think about something for 1 second, make you pay. He's taking guys back. After he goes for a couple failed takedowns, then he takes your back and he capitalizes. And the one opportunity you gave him, it's over. You made a mistake and you couldn't come back from it. Okay. Then against Rong Zhu, right? He's having a competitive fight. I would say, maybe 55% Rong Zhu at the time of stoppage. Like, yeah, Rong Zhu was getting a little bit better of some of the exchanges, but he was staying within himself, right? He wasn't losing his composure. And as soon as he saw an opportunity, whack, massive elbow, and it's a fight-changing move. By the way, was he like merciful, right? Like, was he like, yo, referee guy? Like, he was like, whatever we need to do, I'll keep knuckling you up, buddy. Like, whatever it takes. He's about that life. So for me, I really like the violence of Taco. I like the aggression of Taco. And I think that for all of, Jai's skills, the thing that I do think gets to him is when somebody brings like really determined aggression. Trinaldo is like an old school fighter, man. Like, he was kind of losing that fight and a little bit even getting his ass whooped at portions of that fight. But he's like, I'm going to get something. Like, before we leave this, like, I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to get something. And he's swinging. He's trying to get everything back with one punch. Dude, he connected and it's a startling knockout, right? Like, Dan Hardy lost his job for this knockout. You feel me? Like, crazy. And if it was one time, I'm like, all right, I write it off. I pass it off. No problem. He's been on the wrong end of some big shots. He's been on the wrong end of some of the worst knockouts you've ever seen. He's been like, you look at the UFC wins and you're like, who's the best guy this guy's ever defeated? Like, I think Rong Zhu might be like as good a win as Jai Herbert would have had in the UFC, right? Like, just like looking through like the list of names, you're like, Kama worthy. By the way, I loaded up on Jai Herbert knockout props in that fight. Of course. So I just think that when I'm looking at this one, man, it's not a big like underdog tag, so I don't feel like I got to jump out of my chair and go play Taco. But I think this is going to be a winnable fight for Taco, and I don't think that this is like Bedoya, who's just going to stand there and get Pez dispensered all night and have no answers or changes of game plan or anything like that. I think that he's going to try and find either 1-2 big moments to like sting this guy and make it count, which I think he could win the fight by doing that. Or I think that he could just go out there, compete, make it an honest fight, and we'll see how it goes. So obviously the price is just not enticing enough for me. Because I think if this goes to the cards, pre-written English scorecards, are already in the bag. But I just think that the guy with more finishing equity is Padilla, honestly. How do you see this one, Wiz?
Yeah, I do agree that the guy with the more finishing equity is going to be Taco. Let's talk about Jai Herbert a little bit. Jai, not the most fortunate run. You look at his past 5 fights and the fight against Ludwig Klein, I think he won that fight. Obviously, the point deduction kind of changed a lot there. Ended in a draw. And Ludwig Klein is someone who right now is really showing his best colors in the UFC. So I rate that performance pretty highly. And then you look at the fight against Fares Ziam, someone who is also surging in the lightweight division right now. That fight was somewhat close. Against Bedoya, he just audited him on the feet. Really landed a lot of knees. And in the clinch, I think Jai Herbert's just nasty. And if Padilla tries to go for any takedowns, I think he'll get punished there with the knees and with the elbows. I think if this stays at distance, sure, Padilla can find those those power shots and those fight-altering shots. And if he's able to find the success in the grappling, then so be it. But I think Jai Herbert, the strength of schedule advantage is all on his side and in his favor. And also just the measurables. I mean, 6'1" versus 5'9", and then a 3-inch reach advantage is going to help you a lot when it comes to the lightweight division, just in the UFC in general. I still think this is a very close fight. Not one of the fights that I'm looking to get involved in, but I do lean ever so slightly to the Jai Herbert side just because of that strength of schedule, and he has shown improved durability. We haven't really seen him get hurt since the Ilya Topuria fight. His chin has held up pretty well, and sure, the 3 knockout losses are a worry, but has not shown the susceptibility of getting hurt in this past 4. So for me, I think it's Jai Herbert unless he finds his way on the wrong side of the grappling department. And yeah, I do like Padilla's attributes in terms of his aggressiveness, in terms of him being able to hunt that finish and having those instincts to really go for it when the opportunity presents itself. But I think he is a little bit, I'm not going to say green, but green in terms of UFC experience here. So for all those reasons, I do favor Jai Herbert ever so slightly, but I likely will not get to a bet here. I'll probably wait to see if maybe Jai Herbert loses round 1, and if it looks like it's still a close fight, I'll try to get involved live. But other than that, not interested at all.
Fair play, my brother. This is a tricky one for me. Like even as I was speaking about it out loud, I was like, like I can make a case for Jai Herbert as well. I've just never been a big Jai Herbert guy, and I do think the difference between like a Bedoya and a Padilla is that Padilla is a lot more violent and aggressive and looking to hurt people and finish them. But I do think on the other side of the equation, it's like, Ludovic Klein, I think, dangerous guy. What's his name? Fereziam, dangerous guy. So if you're going with those guys and not getting finished, like obviously to your point, shows an ability to manage the durability. But I just worry that there's those shades, shades that can pop back up when you're 36 going on 37. And, maybe a little more incentivized to take risks at home in front of the home crowd,
Yeah, and
Pepe says Padilla is very low volume. I agree. That's a concern. He makes his reads and he's looking for the perfect shot. So if he doesn't find the finish, I think he could find himself wanting. Did you have something to add, Wiz?
Yeah, we do have to favor, if this goes to decision, obviously the British judges are very biased towards their own fighters, and we all know it. So you have that added element if you're playing the Jai Herbert side. So you got to give him a slight edge there too.
Oh, yeah. Dirty Sal and the gang go international. That's the name of the UFC card, actually. But in any case, we've got next up one of the more entertaining fights on the card. Nathaniel Wood taking on Morgan Charriere. And Morgan Charriere, another one of these guys that's got a pretty big Instagram following. Nathaniel Wood on the other side. He's got a long UFC tenure and a guy that is still just 31 years of age. So he is getting up there in terms of you got to go right now in the division, right? It's a division that requires pretty quick turnover. But, man, I think to myself, like, Morgan Charriere as a big favorite is almost never the click. Just looking at his past, the guy's got 10 losses as a professional, many of them at the regional level. The guy goes to close split decisions with everybody. The guy has a penchant for losing those kind of competitive fights. So I think that when you look back at the Chepe fight, there's an argument that he won it. That's a solid ass win. But also when you look back at it, how did he lose it? It's like fight management. It's like going through making the same wrong decisions that cost him in the past, prioritizing grappling when Chepe is getting off on too many strikes, prioritizing going for an attempt, and then he gives up a bad position. It's like the guy is too focused on pleasing the crowd and fighting for aesthetics and, looking pretty than he is about fighting to the best of his abilities at times. And frankly, Manolo Zucchini, you couldn't distinguish him from any regional level fighter. No disrespect to the man, but that's the God's honest truth. I think that you could have just thrown in a random Italian guy and said it was Manolo Zucchini. Most people wouldn't have known the difference. So I think that when you look at Morgan Charriere, he's a little bit more manufactured in this UFC run. When he's fought tough guys, real guys, legit guys, cage warriors and otherwise, it's close split decision type territory. So dog or pass type situation it feels for me when a guy like Nathaniel Wood, listen, here's my criticisms of Nathaniel Wood. I don't think he's got a great chin. I don't think he's a very physical guy for 145 pounds, which maybe could come back to bite him here against Charriere. If Charriere decides to grapple heavily, I think that, at times Wood's takedown defense has really left a lot to be desired. I don't think Namath is very good, but I bet him at a big price, plus 2XX against Wood, because I thought he was more physical. I thought he was going to be assertive and try and bring the fight to Wood, and that's exactly what happened. And did he deserve to win that fight? Probably not. He probably should have been docked points. It probably should have been a draw. But either way, like, Nathaniel Wood got hurt in that fight. He's gotten hurt in a lot of his fights. Neither one of these guys feels like a safe investment for me. But when you're talking about a fight that's likely to end in a split decision, like, give me the plus 160 and just live with the outcome. And that's kind of the way I see this. So I'd rather be on Nathaniel Wood or pass overall. My gut level feel is probably that this fight goes to split. So gross. What do you think about this one, Wiz?
I just have this. I don't have a bet on this fight. I likely won't. But I just have a gut feeling that Morgan Charriere is going to find a finish in this fight for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you noted that Nathaniel Wood's chin is not really the best in terms of taking shots. And where he lacks in his game is the physicality. And I think where Morgan Charriere excels is sometimes the physicality, although at times he could be low volume. His striking is very clean. And Nathaniel Wood might have the speed advantage here, but if he finds himself against the cage, it kind of takes away from that speed. And if Charriere starts landing early and often, I do see a world where he chops Wood's legs off, because Wood has been susceptible to the leg kicks. And Charriere might be able to land that knockout blow. Now, another path to victory for Charriere here is going to be the grappling, which he doesn't tend to go to all that often, but we saw in that Chepe fight, and a lot of people wilt against Chepe, especially when you're going 3 rounds. Charriere did not back down one bit. Although he lost the fight, it was very close. I would say it could have gone either way. It still was a very impressive loss, albeit. And I'm the guy that usually says, oh, let's not overrate fighters off of a good loss. But against a guy like Chepe, I mean, you usually see guys wilt big time. And this is going into like the later parts of the second round, let alone the third. So the gas tank was very impressive. And Nathaniel Wood just, I think, taking too much damage. And in the last fight against Daniel Pineda, I think that third round was a very questionable look where he got taken down. And I think if he didn't land those kicks to the body, he would have been in trouble and maybe on his way to lose the fight. So for me, I can only look to Charriere or pass, but likely passing just due to the fact that, I do think that Nathaniel Wood might be the more skilled fighter in this matchup, just lacking the physicality and the durability to, really compete in this fight. So for all those reasons, I like Morgan, but likely staying away.
Yeah, for me, it comes down to if this turns into like a grappling match, then I favor Charriere, just in the sense that I think he's more likely to get on top. But if it's just a pure kickboxing match for 15 minutes, then I kind of like Wood, because I think he's probably going to get off on more volume over the course of 15. So do I think that there's a chance of a Charriere finish? Yes, but I think his finishing instincts are poor. And I think that Nathaniel Wood has good self-preservation instincts when he gets hurt. So that's my only pushback there. But I do think, like, when you get hurt in every fight, you will eventually get finished. So I kind of thought, he's dodged that bullet a few times. And even I bet Casey Kenny against him back in the day. That's a deep cut for y'all. And if y'all follow MMA news, that's a disgusting and terrible cut. But in any case, Casey Kenny whooped his ass really bad, and also, like, beat him up, right? You just go back and look. Nathaniel Wood took a lot of damage in that fight. Casey Kenny, obviously known as a wrestler, but he kicked him in the body a shit ton and punched him in the face a whole lot. So Nathaniel Wood's come a long way since then, but he's gotten hurt in a lot of those fights since. So damage accumulates over time, and he's definitely taken the more damage at 31 years of age, and that could show. But when it comes down to skills, yeah, to your point, Wiz. I think it's an honest fight. So for me, that's why I'm looking more towards the dog. But the guy with more athletic intangibles and a little bit more proven results recently, I would say would be Charriere. So good stuff. Next up, my man, we got Jordan Vucenic taking on Chris Duncan. Why don't you lead us off on this one, Wiz? The epidemic Vucenic stepped up on short notice, looked great in that spot, but was not able to come away with the win. Now coming back with a vengeance as a big favorite here against Chris Duncan, the more proven UFC guy. Interesting stuff. Obviously, the Cage Warriors legend Vucenic and Chris Duncan, meanwhile, the battle-tested UFC guy. He's had ups, he's had downs, but currently riding a wave of momentum at American Top Team. What do you think about this one?
This is where we get the coin back from when we lost against Chris Duncan with Balaji Oki. This is where we make the money back. No, I mean, in all seriousness, I do think that as simple as I can break this down, I think Vucenic is just better everywhere. In terms of physicality, in terms of durability, speed, you just got to favor Vucenic all around here. And I think he lands a round 1 knockout finish against the chinny Chris Duncan here. Duncan has been able to, weasel his way out with a couple of wins in the UFC. And I just think this is where he meets the end, especially hometown fighter coming on with finally a full camp in the UFC. I would say first real UFC fight. I don't really have much to say. I think Vucenic finds the round 1 knockout just purely off of the striking speed and overall skill advantage. I'm going to give it to Vucenic. No real interest on Duncan, not even on a bigger price tag than where it's at now. So I think Vucenic in parlays is fine.
Interesting. I like where your head is at. I'm currently looking for something different. Okay, the price is shit. Okay, so I do not need to bet it right now. Sometimes when we're live on the show, you have like a reminder, an inclination of something you thought earlier in the week. I will give a lean here, let's say, but y'all can read between the lines. You guys can put on your thinking caps. I think this is a violent fight, period, point blank. That's the way that I'm going to look to target this from a betting standpoint. Obviously, Vucenic never been finished, right? 3 losses, all of them decisions, but the guy's been in some violent-ass fights. You look at the fights he's been in, they're wars. They're back and forth. They get into crazy positions. Like, people are looking for violence the whole time. And sometimes they can't find it because they're both tough as an old leather boot, right? He fought Paul Hughes, fought tough guys. So you look at those fights that go the distance. It's not for a lack of trying. It's not for a lack of bleeding. It's not for a lack of effort and intensity. So for all those reasons, I say to myself, this is going to be a violent fight. Then you listen to what Chris Duncan is bringing to the table. You said it. He's a pretty chinny guy. I tend to agree with that. But I'll say this. If you want lessons in humility, bet on mixed martial arts, right? And I think that sometimes people get out over their skis about big favorites. And I've done it about small favorites, right? You go back and look at Charlie Campbell against Chris Duncan. And Charlie Campbell was a minus 150, guys. I bet Charlie Campbell to win 3 units. Pretty sizable play for me. And I might have bet 3 units risk amount. But in any case, you go back and look, like it was a sizable enough bet for me. And I think Charlie to this day is better at every aspect of mixed martial arts fighting. Like, I think he's a better grappler. I think he's a better striker. I think he's faster. I think he hits harder. Like, in every way, he's the better guy. And Duncan still found a way to kill him, right? And kill him dead. Like, absolutely out cold, left no doubt about it. And the one thing about Duncan that you cannot take away from him is the guy is tough as shit. So is he hurtable? Oh, yeah. Is he a little bit fragile at times? Sure. Can you put him in dicey situations on the mat? Yeah, you can even do that. Like, the guy's got flaws, no doubt. But he's also got knockout power. He's also got a lot of aggression. He's willing to keep dogging out takedown attempts and, like, keep trying to put you back on the mat. Like, the guy's just got that willpower to win fights. So I think he's going to either win this fight via finish or die trying. You know what I mean? And like, I think way more often than not, he dies trying. But I just think Duncan is on like a suicide mission in this fight where he's out there to kill or be killed. And I like the way that sounds. For me, when you're looking at like, you know, a minus 350 price tag here on Vucenic, and I think that Duncan is basically going to say your life or mine. Like, I'd much rather just buy onto fight not to go the distance or something like that and get that equity for Duncan, which is like him coming out there like a bat out of hell in the first round and a half trying to kill you, but also putting himself at tremendous risk the whole time. You know, and we've seen him get hurt in regional fights. We've seen him get put out cold, plus 120, Slava Borshev, touch it, put the money in the bag. I've had a great experience with some of these Duncan fights, but other fights, not so much, right? I mentioned the Charlie Campbell fight. I thought I had it all figured out. He's dropping him 3 times in the first round. I'm already counting the money. And then all of a sudden, Chris Duncan from the graveyard, bing, bang, boom, puts him out cold. So I just don't want to doubt this guy again. And like his violent capabilities are there. Pulyaev is doing everything he wants to the guy, makes his mistake, puts his head in the wrong position, wakes up, single leg in the referee. So I just think that at a certain point, like I like violence, man. I like violence here. Like Chris Duncan's going to kill or be killed. As far as I'm concerned, hell, it's a good day to die on Saturday. So I like violence, brother. That's what I'll be looking at on that fight. Anything else you want to add before we move to the next one?
Yeah, I do like the violence side, just so you can cover both at minus 170. Fight doesn't go, or even the under 2.5 at minus 150. I would almost much rather pay the extra 20 cents and get the extra half round just in case, but I don't even think it makes it there. As I typed in the chat, Vucenic round 1 KO at plus 770 is what has my dollars currently. But I'm probably going to be adding that fight doesn't go now that we're talking about it more. I just don't. Yeah, I don't see how this fight makes it.
Your boy's got to do some arithmetic after this. A little bit of checking the numbers, but I like some of the numbers I'm seeing right now. So I'll just leave it there. Y'all are all smart explorers. Y'all can do your own research. And I will be sending that play on Patreon later today. So for whatever that's worth. But in any case, Molly Meatball McCann taking on Alexia Tainara. This is a fight that, Wiz, I must admit, I have to go back and tape Tainara. I feel like I know Molly McCann like the back of my hand. I literally called Molly McCann via sub armbar 1 or 2 against Diana Belbita in the rematch. I felt fucking very vindicated there. So I've had great runs with Molly, right? I'm a big fan of her work as a result of that. I think I even had the fight not to go the distance against, what's her name? Big chick from Fighting Nerds. Gosh, Bruna Brazil. Bruna Brazil, when she was fighting Bruna Brazil, I had the fight not to go the distance. Didn't cash plus EV, though. She was ready to keel over from those body kicks 2 or 3 times, and I don't think Bruna Brazil knew. So she's just like standing there watching her like keel over in agony. But in any case, I feel like this is another fight where violence could be sneaky at play, right? Like one thing about Molly that we've kind of seen is like when it goes wrong, it can go all the way wrong and it can go all the way wrong fast. You lose to Stoliarenko via sub 1. It's like, okay, you're getting hurt every round by Bruna Brazil on the feet. It's like, not great, Chief. I do think Alexia Tainara, from my notes from Contender Series, like the things that had me worried about her, I was like, she could get pinned down. She could get held down. Her grappling's not stupendous, right? We've seen Rayanne Amanda, who has skills, is a UFC level fighter, but also has her own flaws, let's say, right? Maybe not the most physical girl in the world. Went out there, took her down right to the full mount, got into great positions, went for an armbar, which is like super negative EV for MMA purposes, right? To just armbar off to the mount, unless you know for a fact you have it. And then she falls under, gets beat up from ground and pound, and gives up the fight. So that's where I said Rayanne Amanda has her flaws, right? Molly McCann's a tough girl, but I think that the durability's declined over time at 34 years of age after, a lot of hardcore UFC fights, back and forth, swang 'em, bang 'em type of wars. I don't know that she takes a shot the same way that she used to. So I think that's a little bit of a cause for concern. The fluctuating weight classes, like we know, not great for your health, right? To go up and down and up and down. The older you get, the harder it is to make the cuts, harder it is to get down. I'll just say, like, doesn't always seem like her and Patty and that team have the greatest diet, which I'm not trying to judge. I'm just saying that makes it harder to cut weight. That shit is doable when you're young. It gets harder and harder the older that you get. So I think there's a lot of potential red flags on Molly, but I expected her to be a significant favorite in this fight because it's Molly McCann, right? I opened this up expecting to see like Molly McCann minus 200, some random Brazilian plus 170. And I know that Tainara looked all right on Contender Series, beating Conceição. I think they were like friends. I don't really know what to make of that fight in the end. She won the decision, which I expected her to have more finishing upside. I thought if it was a decision, it would be greasy. She did give up some takedowns, if my memory served there, but showed off improved takedown defense, willingness to get back up to her feet, violent tendencies. Like, she does have an ability to hurt women, to land good shots on the feet. Maybe not the greatest finishing instincts in that fight, but throughout her career, she has shown herself to be dangerous, fought UFC level opponents before. So she kind of checks some of the boxes that you need for, somebody I would want to bet if she was a dog in this spot, certainly. But to trust her at a favorite price tag in a UFC debut, to fly across the world, go to England to take on Molly McCann in England, like, Bruna Brazil did that in like a third or fourth UFC fight with the fighting nerds, and they got all the momentum in the world, and great coaches, and great camp, and great corner, and great game plan. It's like, I just think it's expecting a lot of Tainara to do it all in a UFC debut, and to do it all with the pressure on her shoulders, being a favorite, all these considerations. Like, who's got the brighter future in the UFC? I mean, no disrespect, but it's an obvious answer, right? Tainara just has a lot more room to grow, and she's still 27, right? But on the other side, like, this is kind of like another must-win type of fight as far as I see it. Like, Molly McCann, if she loses this one, like, yeah, they could keep running her out here for these London cards, but like, I don't know where her level of motivation is going to be. I think this is kind of one that she's got to go out there and try and get. And so the way I think she wins this fight is by being anti-Molly, like, no spinning back shits and whatever. It's like, take this girl down and try and implement your top game, because her top game is pretty functional, right? And especially at 115, where she's physically strong compared to some of her opponents. Stoliarenko is like a one-trick pony, but it's one good trick, right? In WMMA, you take me down to the full guard, I'm going to throw up this guard armbar, and it's going to get you, right? And like, that's the only move that she can do. She can armbar you from the guard and elsewhere, but that's it. So she got armbarred, and it's like, that's tough sledding, right? Brutal. But when you look at the other fights, like, Bruna Brazil is big, long, awkward. Again, could present some of the same problems as Tainara, but she also was able to like prevent Molly from getting success in the grappling. She was able to like spin her out into some bad positions, and I don't know that Tainara has that kind of grappling ability. So for me, this is a tricky one. I like betting Molly just historically. I like betting her in England. I like these kind of situations, but again, she's normally a big favorite, and the fact that she's not a favorite in this fight is almost a little telling for me. Like, I think the books are going to get money on Molly as a dog, but maybe the stock is just super low on her. I want to look at where the market's at. But I can't imagine the market being super high on this Tainara girl coming off a Contender Series decision, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think about this one, Wiz? Clue me in.
Yeah, I think the market's actually pretty high on Tainara for one reason. Molly opened at minus 425 on Bet Online. So for a line to flip like that, it's telling. And like you said, in England,
Definitely some sharp early dollars. I'll be honest. That early line is fucking insane.
yeah,
Like, also,
absolutely,
like,
absolutely,
you just can't make that against anybody. But
100%. No, and we look at the skill set that Tainara brings to the table, and historically, that's what's going to give Molly trouble. People who are going to stand in her face and strike with her rather than be scared of her aggression. And Molly isn't the type that's going to hurt you with her power, but it's more going to be over attrition, over 3 rounds. And I just don't think that she's going to be able to do that with Tainara, just because Tainara is a girl who's able to keep her reach and stay at her distance. Having that 5-inch reach advantage here against Molly is going to be really beneficial to her, because she won't be getting hit as much, and that's really Molly's game plan, is to hurt you with the attrition. And B, Tainara does have some pop to her striking on her own. Burgassinha, over the past 3 fights, has shown improved takedown defense and just overall grappling game and get-up game. Has a couple of submissions under her belt as well. I think she's going to be able to stay safe on the outside and really hurt Molly at some point. I was looking towards finish props on the Tainara side, but just opted to go with the money line at -180. I could look like an absolute fool hindsight, fading Molly in England. I mean, with the narrative on her side, her trying to get her career back. But I think at this stage of her career, moving back down in the weight class at 34, almost 35, I just think this spells trouble for Molly. So I'm going to be on the Tainara side. I'm going to be looking towards some finish props as well. I just can't unsee the past few fights for Molly. She just looks like a shell of herself. So for all those reasons, give me Tainara. Burgassinha.
Yeah, man, I kind of like the idea of the fight not to go the distance. Again, it's like a way of covering both sides, but like it buys into maybe Molly's completely washed, or maybe Tainara maybe is a victim of the moment type of deal, like where she goes out there and it's like bright lights, like holy shit, UFC debut, Petrino against Anthony Smith type vibes, you know. But I do see her violent finishing potential on the other side as well. So for me, +160 instead of -190, and you know, give myself some Molly win equity as well. That's the way my brain thinks about it creatively. But it is WMMA, right? So you gotta give it an extra long think. Next up, my man, we got Kevin Holland taking on Gunny Nelson, and I'll lead us off on this one, man. I consider myself to be pretty knowledgeable on Kevin Holland fights. I've done very well betting on his fights over the years. I'm going to pull up on betmma.tips really quick my history betting Kevin Holland fights, so that way it is on screen so people know I'm not capping. I am handicapping the fights, but I am not capping about the results, right? The results are what the results are. 77% ROI on money lines, 112% ROI on 15 units of profit on props. So I've done very well betting on Kevin Holland fights, and I say it every time. If you're going to bet on a Kevin Holland fight, call Big Mouth, right? And I think that when you look at this guy's fights, there was a time when you could get behind Kevin Holland passionately, right? Because he was going to go out there and fight hard for your money. And I think the last few fights, like, you've objectively had to say going in, like, there's no reason to believe that Kevin Holland is going to go fight hard for your money. In this fight, I have a sneaky suspicion that Kevin Holland is going to fight hard for your money. Now, does that mean he will win it? The answer is no. He still makes mistakes on the ground. He still is vulnerable to being out-grappled and submitted. We know this about Kevin. But when we look at what is Kevin's upside in any fight, he's a dangerous striker, man, and he always has been. He's got power in his hands. He's also got an ability to land in combinations, 1-2s, the ability to throw boxing combinations. He can kick. He's multifaceted in his approach. He's actually not a bad grappler offensively. We've seen him take the back of a guy like Brendan Allen before eventually getting reversed and Brendan Allen submits him. It's like, this guy has offense, but his defense, his cardio, his staying power, all these things aren't always perfect. But when it comes down to it, he's so much more active than Gunnar Nelson. It's like shocking, right? Like, Gunnar Nelson doesn't fight at all, and Kevin Holland fights too much. So I think that on that spectrum, on that continuum, I actually prefer the fights too often than doesn't fight at all guy, because the doesn't fight at all guy, you don't get any data on them. I know that Kevin Holland can't beat anybody at 185 that can wrestle and grapple. That's a fact. And I've said it 50 times. And if I say it 100 times, it'll still be true. And it was true against the Ritter. And it was true against the Lidze. And we can keep going through against Vittori, against, what's his name? Derek Brunson. Like, you just run the gambit, right? But against guys at 170 that are like title challenger type guys like Jack Della Maddalena, he's fighting to split decisions. So at 170, he's a much more competitive guy. He's a much more serious fighter. So I like this move, right? This week, I see a tweet from Kevin Holland that said, I feel like I owe you guys one. Let me go back and pull this up. Kevin Holland
I was hoping you'd bring it up.
Very communicative on Twitter in the past, okay? And I can tell you guys, I remember when Kevin Holland said, if you guys want, tell me how I should finish this guy. And he said, like for a knockout, or excuse me, it was like for a submission, retweet for a knockout. And I was like, there has never been one poll in the history of Earth that has won with retweets. It is always with likes. They're so much easier to get. I was like, so he's going to submit this guy. And I bet the submission at plus 900, and he went out there and cashed it. He's a man of his word, okay? So when he tells you, I'm about the money, I don't give a shit, I'm just here to get paid, I believed him every time. I was like, yeah, he's not going to show up and fight hard. He doesn't care about being here. He's here for the money. He does not want to win. The most real thing that I've ever seen from Kevin Holland, because by the way, guys, these are real human beings, right? And real human beings follow incentives. If I'm going to give you a lot of money to show up and fucking lose, and you don't have a path to the title, then fuck yeah, I'll show up and lose. Yeah, give me the money. Oh, submit me in the first round. Beautiful. Yeah, get me out of here fast. But at the end of the day, he's a man and he's a competitor, right? Kevin Holland's been a fighter his whole life. This is what his most recent tweet said. For the ones that support, much love. To the ones that hate, it's still much love this way. But I owe all of you a W and plan on delivering. Does that sound like Kevin Holland that showed up to his last couple of fights? Dead serious. No, it fucking does not. That sounds like a man who's embarrassed. That sounds like a man who's sick of everybody on the internet telling him he doesn't know how to fight and he should retire and he sucks now and he's a bum and he should go home and, you know, he never really was any good anyway. The truth is, Kevin Holland's a good fighter that didn't live up to his potential because he didn't want it. He wasn't that disciplined. He had tough fights against real guys, and it exposed the fact that maybe it's not just, you know, if I had this day or that day. It's like, no, maybe some guys are just better than me. But if you say to yourself, well, that's my limitation, right? I'm just going to accept that. Then that's as good as you're going to be. And you're going to be a product of that. But if you say to yourself, I don't accept that, I'm going to go out there and find a way to be better. Then you become guys like Bilal Muhammad and these other guys that break through and win championships, right? It's about your mindset as much as everything else. So Kevin Holland, I think for a long time, slipped off the rails, and he was not a guy that you could take seriously. But this is the kind of fight where if you say who's been real about getting out there and fighting in the last few years and putting it on the line, it's Kevin Holland, and not even close. If you look at who was in reach of beating like top level guys, serious fighters recently, it's Kevin Holland. And meanwhile, a lot of people this week are telling me, and I'm always Mr. Submission Prop, right? I'm always looking for a submission prop. Everybody's telling me like this has got to be Gunny by submission. I've heard takes this week, and I always say I respect all analysts. I'm willing to be wrong, right? We might come back and I'm dead wrong on Sunday morning, so but we'll sit with those results when they happen as well. But let's be honest here. I've heard analysts this week say that Gunnar Nelson is like clearly a better grappler than Rene de Ridder, which is fucking retarded. Like, there's no way that you could justify that opinion, in my humble opinion. Like, if you go through and look at the data, the footage, the things that exist out there, and excuse my language, I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm just like, if you go back and look, like, Rene de Ridder is passing the guard of Andrey Galvao on video. Like, we've seen that. And Gunnar Nelson got summarily audited in every way by Damian Maia when they fought. And I'm hearing people tell me that he was like competing with Damian. No! Damian was like, big bank takes little bank. That was the fight. And it was black belt versus black belt. There's levels to everything. Like when you get a black, yeah, there's absolutely great black. There's levels to this shit. Rene DeRitter would embarrass Gunnar Nelson in a grappling match, in my view. And I love and respect Gunnar Nelson. Size matters, physicality matters. Bro, Rene DeRitter, in my view, is just a way more proven grappler, period. So I'm willing to accept that I could be wrong and foolish. But that is my opinion as somebody that's watched a lot of grappling and a lot of mixed martial arts fights. Like, I think Gunny's a very good MMA grappler. And I think Rene DeRitter is a level above that as an MMA grappler. Like what he's done, how he does it. Again, granted, some of it not in the UFC, but I think Gilbert Burns shut down the grappling of Gunnar Nelson off the top of my head. Like, which, by the way, Sean Brady, who we'll talk about later, audited him in the grappling, so to speak. It's like there are always more and more levels to this shit, right? There's always a level deeper you can go. So, as far as I'm concerned, man, like I look at this and I say, Gunnar Nelson, very good grappler. But when you go, what was it, 15 minutes without submitting? Now I got to pull it back up because I want to make sure.
Sato.
Was that who it was where he was on his back for the whole fight and didn't finish?
Yep.
Oh, dude, like I'm saying, was that stalling from Sato? Like, yeah, but also like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? Like, seriously? Come on, man. And for me, that's the kind of fight that is not a sign that like you're easily going to submit Kevin. Because for all the things you could say about Kevin, like there have been times when he's been in chokes for several minutes at a time. Like go back and watch the Derek Brunson fight. Derek Brunson's got him in a head and arm choke for like 2.5 minutes. He's like looking at the referee, like I'm cool, taking deep breaths, like answering the phone, just staying in the fight. So I think in recent years we've seen a little more like willingness to just check out from Kevin. But again, pre-fight mentality, how you talk to yourself matters. This guy's saying like, I owe it to myself. I owe it to you guys to go out there and get a win, to go out there and fight. That's a way different vibe from Kevin than like, I can't wait to cash this check. I don't give a shit what happens. Like that's just when somebody tells me that, I believe him. And he's not telling me that now. You have to care. It starts with caring, right? If you don't care, I don't care. He cares about this one. And I think that that's the only way that I could ever consider Kevin is plus money and he cares. I haven't bet him as an underdog since he fought Jacare Souza. And he knocked him out in the first round from the bottom position, by the way. So watch him knock out Gunnar Nelson from the bottom full guard in this fight because Gunnar Nelson hasn't been in a cage fight in a while and he's a little stiff and not ready to rumble. So watch out for them paws of Kevin from the bottom position. I don't know if y'all are ready to rumble with that, but I do think there's a chance for violence on either side, like the submission for Gunny. Like I do rate him as a grappler. He's very, very good. He's better than Kevin, but is he that much better than Kevin that it's a surefire lock he's going to take him down, submit him? I don't think his wrestling's his selling point. I think his grappling's good, not world class. So that's the way I see it, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I was one of the earliest people who bet on Holland this week. I have 2 units at plus 120 on Kevin Holland for multiple reasons. I mean, once I looked at this matchup and it was one that stood out to me and I had to tape it first thing. And there's just a lot to say. First, talking about Holland, not couple fights ago, this is like 4 or 5 fights ago. He was like, I'm never going to cut back down to 170. I was killing myself to make weight. Why is he cutting back down to 170 here? Clearly, he's realized that at 185, he's just massively undersized. And in terms of just size and strength, let alone. And B, he just realizes that he cannot keep up with the wrestling of these guys at 185. It's kind of like the truth has been told about Kevin Holland at 185. If you're able to take him down, then just the sheer weight advantage is going to be too tough for him to overcome. Against Rainier DeRitter, he weighed in at 183, and I think DeRitter on fight night was like somewhere around 210. So huge advantage for anyone that's fighting Holland at 185. That's just one thing. And second thing here, we look at we always say styles make matchups, and in this fight, Holland's almost going to have a 10-inch reach advantage here, and we already know that he's going to be the much better striker. As long as this stays on the feet, I think Gunny is just going to get outgunned. Just no pun intended. I I just do not rate his striking whatsoever. He has that karate background, similar to like a Conor McGregor-esque stance. And that doesn't bode well against these taller guys who throw straight punches like Holland. Because these karate guys, their hands aren't up to their face. It's more to the side. They're hovering left and right, and they dart in and out. And if you're darting in and out against someone who's throwing straight punches, who has a 9-inch reach advantage against you, that just does not bode well for you or your chin. We have not seen Gunny face someone with this kind of striking in quite some time, let alone be at this kind of reach advantage or disadvantage in a fight. His wrestling, no disrespect, but not all that impressive either. I've heard some takes on the internet where sure he has like a nice blast double, and at some points his entries have been nice, and he times them really well. But how often have we seen that in the tape besides against someone like Takashi Sato? This is just a completely different fighter that we're facing now. And then on top of all of that, we're not even talking about the height disadvantage here, 4 inches of height. So I just don't think Holland's going to give up takedowns all that easy. I don't think he's going to be able to grapple Holland as successfully as most people think. And like you said, a lot of people think this is just going to be an easy wash of a grappling match for Gunnar Nelson. Whereas I'm more along the lines of, I think this fight stays on the feet. And if I were to tell anyone if this fight stays on the feet, who would you predict to win? It's more often than not, people are going to say Holland. Similar to when I said a couple weeks ago about the Ankalaev and Pereira fight, when I said I don't think Ankalaev is going to land a single takedown, I don't think Gunny is going to not land a single takedown here. He might land a couple, but I don't think it's going to be an insta-sub type of performance by any means. I think Holland's going to be able to build back to his base, similar to how he was able to build back once or twice against Khamzat Chimaev, and really put it to Gunny on the feet. So I think this is Holland and Holland all the way. This is the type of fight where, similar to last week when I was planning my flag on Chitty, I'm planning my flag on Holland here, and I haven't seen anyone on Holland all week. So give me Holland moneyline. I'm also taking the fight doesn't go to cover both sides, under 2.5. I just like the violence aspect in this fight a lot, but as a pure pick, it's Holland for sure. I think Holland should be more in the realm of a -160, -170. So Trailblazer Kevin Holland talking well on social media. Look at his Instagram stories. He's in good spirits. And then we'll see tomorrow. I think the media day starts in about 4 hours. We're really looking forward to his interviews and seeing where his overall mentality is at. I know we've seen some of the tweets, but I want to hear him speak, and that's really going to be a telling factor. Besides the scales, as long as he's able to make a really clean weight cut, I have no doubt that Kevin Holland will win this fight. So give me Holland.
We agree. I'm going to pick Kevin Holland here. I want to just say I love Iceland. Shout out to Iceland. Shout out to Reykjavik, where Gunnar Nelson trains. Beautiful country, very welcoming people, and a beautiful place. I think Gunny's a really cool guy, but I just think that being in between on fighting is like not the right place to be. And I think there was a time when he was like a top level guy, could have fought for the welterweight strap straight up. But I think that right now you look at a guy like Kevin, and Kevin is just a little more athletic, a little faster. And honestly, I just think he's got more motivation to go out there and win a fight like this. Like, I think Gunny is a chess master, right? Like, if you go look at his Instagram, there's pictures of him playing chess. Like, he's a guy he loves the spirit of the game. Like, he wants to go out there and compete and try these things out. But if you've ever seen Gunny get hit, you realize why he likes jiu-jitsu and why he doesn't come to these fights all that often. Like, the guy does not love the feeling of being on the wrong end of a couple of these blows. So he's got good kicks. Like, he's not a zero on the feet either, but his defense isn't as good as his offense. His striking is not a fraction of his grappling, in my humble opinion, despite the fact he has background in both. Like, just the way that it works out for his MMA career, the way that he's able to make it work. I think that when you look at this fight, the only disagreement I would have is I think Holland by decision is live as well, because it's a damage over control type of era in MMA. And like, Gunny getting to the back is like kind of undeniable, right? Like, they got to give him credit for that. But like, if he's just pushing Holland into the fence and Holland's keeping it upright and like punching him in the ribs, Like, I just think that's the kind of fight they're going to give to Kevin, even if he gets taken down 30 seconds at a clip and he's doing the, stand us up and like, like looking around like type gimmick or like talking to him and stuff. I think that's the kind of fight where Kevin could win it. So lean towards Kevin here, but the only upside I really give to Gunny is the fact that I think that he is still the better grappler purely between these two. I think we've seen a number of times Kevin make mistakes in the grappling that are fundamental. So, but ultimately he's a good offensive grappler from the front headlock. So if Gunny's taking desperation shots, like he could put himself in a bad situation, and Kevin hits very hard. So I just think Kevin presents a lot of challenges for Gunny, especially in a comeback fight. All right, next up, my man, we got Jan Blachowicz taking on Carlos Blackjack Ulberg, and I will just lead off this one and say, I think Carlos Blackjack Ulberg is going to have this coming out party on Saturday night, and I think that when you look at who this guy is, male model type of guy, young enough in the division, still in his early 30s, and meanwhile, Jan Blachowicz, he's past his prime, right? It's not to say he can't win fights, right? He's still a guy that exists in the division and could have some success. But in terms of marketability, does the UFC want to continue to build up a guy like Blachowicz who's likely to have 5 or fewer fights with the promotion, or a guy that's likely to have 10 to 15, maybe 20 fights left with the promotion in a guy like Carlos Blackjack Ulberg? And for me, the answer is obvious, right? They want to build up a guy like Ulberg since the first time he got to the UFC. If you guys remember, they asked the camp, City Kickboxing, who do you guys want to fight? And they said, we would love to fight against Kennedy and Nzechukwu. And then they fight Kennedy and Nzechukwu, and they are whooping Kennedy and Nzechukwu's ass, landing every shot, every strike, every punch, every kick, anything that they threw landed. And then they were like a victim of their own success, just threw so many shots, landed everything, huffing and puffing in the third round, and broke down. And I had somebody, one of my guys, hit me up on Twitter today. And he basically said, do you think that this guy's just got like a fraudulent chin? And I said, honestly, just seemed to me like a pacing issue, just like go out there, go put the pedal to the floor from the very beginning. And then there's one lap left on the race and you're already out of gas and everybody's just going past you, and you were leading for every lap up until that point, and now you're just sitting there in a parked car and everybody's going past you at 5 miles per hour and you're stuck. So that's what it seemed like to me. I think that looking at a guy like Ulberg, you learn from that. You go out there, you get that experience in a debut, and then you get some rounds under your belt. You go out there, you fight some guys that you could beat up and you could probably knock them out in the first round, but you kind of drag them around and let them feel you and grab a couple hold of them and just see, can I fight for 15 minutes? Can I get a better feel? Can I fight a more sustainable pace? And now we've seen him start to get more comfortable inside the octagon. And what does that look like? When he needs to go out there and eke out a decision, keep it close, keep it competitive, touch you up a little bit more against the higher level guys, he did that. When the guys that were a little bit lower level, but they were aggressive and they said like, no, it's piss and vinegar, let's go out there and fight, he fucking put him down and put him in a body bag fast. He was like, you want to get aggressive with me? You want to come swing with me? I'm going to show you what this left hand do. Bing, bing, and just starts catching people with that left hook. So now we know he's dangerous, he's potent, he's a guy that can go out there, manage a close decision, win it that way. He's taking a step up in competition here. I think it's the right step up. I think it's the right step up at the right time. We look at Alex Pereira against Jan Blachowicz, and what did it tell me? 2 old guys. That's what it told me. 2 old guys. At the time that it happened, I thought it was very close. I thought it was closer than I expected. I remember in my article, I had said, like, I made a case for why Jan could win the decision, but then I ultimately picked Pereira via KO 1-2. I went back and read the article, and I was like, okay, so if we're saying Pereira should, knock him out, but he didn't. Why didn't he? Because he got tired from grappling for 5 minutes. You know who else got tired from grappling for 5 minutes? Jan Blachowicz. Talk about a victim of your own success. He takes the guy down. He takes his back. He's doing everything he wants to the guy. He comes out in round 2. He's doing the huff and puff. They're both standing there doing kickboxing in slow motion. I was like, this is not a great visual, right? And that was, for me, the reason why I thought Khalil was live against Pereira, and it didn't work out, but he was, I thought, live. And by the way, live odds were way lower than the pre-odds, right? It was like plus 360. Live, they're booking him at like plus 2, plus 190, plus 180. And then Pereira knocks him out, obviously wins the fight. But it's because he's winning rounds, right? So you saw the decline of Pereira over time. I thought he was declining despite the fact he was winning fights at light heavyweight. Light heavyweight's just a diminished weight class. Then he fights a real guy in Ankalaev. Shit didn't work out. Guy like Blachowicz, you go back and watch his stock has gone like, it's like a ping pong ball. It goes up and down. And I will admit, the one time I was dead wrong about a Jan Blachowicz fight was when he fought Israel Adesanya. And I thought Israel was going to wax him, and Israel had nothing for him really. And he got outlanded every single round. He got taken down multiple times. I was like, holy shit. Jan Blachowicz deserves a lot of credit for that win, even in hindsight. But that, for me, was like the peak of his career, honestly. And I don't think we've ever seen an approximation of that since. Ankalaev fought a pretty boneheaded approach against Jan Blachowicz and was like trading low kick for low kick and like taking a lot of chances on the feet with a guy that's very comfortable on the feet. And then he said, all right, I'm just taking him down. And he took him down, and he absolutely dominated the fight from on top position. Thought he could have even got a stoppage late in that fight if he had turned up the pressure a little bit. You know, the one thing we know about Jan Blachowicz is you put him in some compromised positions on the ground, it starts looking real ugly for Jan Blachowicz fast, right? Like he's got some decent first layer takedown defense and changing hips and whatever. Dude, you put any pressure on this guy's neck, fight's over. Like, you go back and watch that Glover Teixeira fight. Glover hits him with a big left hook, which everybody forgets about, right? By the way, with a left hook, I'm like 99% sure. I'll go back and look at the exact punch, but he definitely hurts him on the feet with short hooks before they exchange grappling. So he was beating him in the first round. This is all from memory, but like I believe he was beating him in the first round, and then they came back out in the second round, and he hurts him up top. Then he goes down, shoots a takedown, takes him down, and finishes him on the ground. I cashed a plus 225 on Glover Teixeira, and it was free 99. Like, I'm talking, there was a few contentious striking exchanges, but like Glover just audited him, was clearly the better martial artist, hurt him on the feet, took him to the ground. And by the way, guys, doesn't get enough credit for it. He did the Amanda Nunes. We're 3/4 of the way in, and we're tapping not even the guy, the floor, so the referee gets us out of there. It's like, my man just didn't want to be there anymore, and it's because his neck was hurting him. You got a big young kid out there who's going to try and jam he's going to try and Pez dispenser your head around with that big left hook. So if you make any mistakes on the feet, you lose concentration, you lose focus, you dip your hands, you start to get tired, you don't bring your hands up anymore, you can get clipped in this one. So now Jan Blachowicz, who's normally the big power threat with his power, his hooks, he's kind of got to be very honest in this one because I don't know that his durability is going to match, right? I think his durability is going to be diminished. I think his health is declining. The guy can hardly make it to the octagon anymore, right? Kind of like a Gunny Nelson. The inactivity is starting to become a little noticeable now. It's like, I think that you look at Jan Blachowicz, maybe he's got one more run in him, but that would be highly optimistic given his age, given his circumstances, given all the things he's gone through. This guy was unhealthy getting to the championship level, made miracles happen. God bless him for it. But you remember back, I cashed in on Jan Blachowicz plus 205 against Dom Reyes when Dom Reyes' stock was at an all-time high. Comes off the win over John Jones, right? He loses that fight, but everybody told me he's a winner. So he's got to win the next one. He's guaranteed to win the next one. He got his ass whooped by Jan Blachowicz, dude. That was not a competitive fight for even a second. He just beat him up with body kicks, tortured him. Like the guy had freaking welts on every side of his body and then was going upstairs, downstairs, high, low. Sensational. So again, we've seen beautiful performances from Jan Blachowicz. The Rakic fight didn't look like that. The Pereira fight didn't look like that. Like, it's not looking so good. The Ankalaev fight didn't look like that. So I think that he's a very good fighter, fought a great level of competition. There's a case you can make for him. He's a star on social media, 800,000, whatever. He's a great guy, likable guy, great stories, all this stuff. I think he's an elder statesman who is about to do the JOB for the next guy up. I think when you look at the championship futures before this year, they're very telling that a guy like Jan Jan Blachowicz, who went split decision with Pereira, who is ranked higher in the division, was 250-1 to be the champion at the end of the year. And Carlos Ulberg was 7-1. I wonder why. I think Carlos Ulberg's going to knock him the fuck out. And I think he's going to stamp himself as a star. What do you think about this one, Wiz?
Great breakdown. I can't say that I disagree at all. You come off of a 2-year layoff with multiple shoulder surgeries. That on its own is going to be a huge red flag, especially if you're a power puncher. I mean, shoulder surgeries and power punchers, that's kind of like the ACL or the Achilles with basketball. It just doesn't spell well. And then you're coming against someone who just stylistically is almost like a nightmare matchup for you, someone who stays on the outside, intelligently boxes, and then, picks his power shots really well. I get it that Carlos Ulberg is someone that can be taken down. He's someone who, generally speaking, it can be considered to be a little bit low volume at some points. But the one thing you can say about him is that he just fights intelligently and he fights to his strengths. Against an aging Jan Blachowicz who, coming off of all those injuries and the layoff, I don't see him finding much success in this fight. I do get the point where in the Pereira fight was at elevation, did gas out from all the wrestling attempts. I don't put too much stock into it. Jan Blachowicz was never really a wrestler like that in his prior fights in his career. So for me, I do think that Carlos Ulberg, as you mentioned, this is going to be his come out party. I don't know if he gets the finish, though. Jan is a tough son of a gun. I was leaning personally more towards the decision aspect for Carlos Ulberg, but I wouldn't be surprised if he lands the knockout blow here. I also just won't be surprised if he just jabs him to death for 3 rounds and collects his check and goes back home. For all those reasons, I'm not going to even try to break this down better than you have, because you listed all the points I was going to mention. Give me Carlos Ulberg pretty confidently.
My man, younger guy, bigger guy. I think he checks a lot of the right boxes, comes from a good team, City Kickboxing. However, I think if you wanted to steelman the case for Blachowicz, championship pedigree, guy's got the grappling upside, guy's more proven in the UFC. But I'll just say, man, 42 years of age, for me, that's getting right up there. Light heavyweight and heavyweight, maybe you get away with a little bit more, but I feel like this is rubber meet the road type territory. Jan Blachowicz has had 40 professional MMA fights. The guy's been around forever. The guy has overperformed, in my opinion, already. Like, he's literally been one of the most prolific underdogs in the history of the light heavyweight division. So if you want to say, like, that's my reason for hitting click, like, God bless. But I also think part of betting on MMA is knowing timing. And for me, like, the timing is you bet on him to be the champion by the end of the year at 250-1. In the futures market, not betting on him here plus 200 against Ulberg, because for me, it's just it's a long-term game. And against a guy like Ulberg right now, like, I just think I'd rather bet it live after 1 round and see that he survived that than go out there and bet it pre and he takes 1 punch and gets folded up. We look at Marvin Vettori last week. He dealt with a shoulder surgery. He's 31, right? And a lot of people were saying he looked like a shell of himself or whatever. It's like, looked like a different guy. Maybe he was, but now we've got a guy who had crippling neck injury to the point where a guy put him in a can opener and he was like, please take my back and get me out of here in a world title fight. So I just don't think his health is trustworthy at all, period. Alrighty, man. That brings us to the main event of the evening. Leon Rocky Edwards taking on Sean Brady. I'm excited to break this one down. We're going to have our guy Wiz lead us off. But first, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's rocking with us. I know it's late, especially if you're here with us on the East Coast. God bless you all. Peace, love, and chicken grease. If you're on the West Coast, like our guy Wiz, shout out to you guys. Salute. We appreciate everybody for the love and support. Make sure you drop a like, get subscribed, and show a little love and support in the comments. Anything that y'all have to say, we appreciate the feedback very much. Wiz, what do you think about this one? Main event time, underdog, champion, hometown fighter. Is he the right click, or is Sean Brady going to have his coming out party in England? What do you think?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in this matchup and some stuff that was released today. I'll just bring that to attention first. There were pictures that were leaked from a week ago, or not leaked, but pictures from Leon's camp that were posted from a week ago, showing that right towards his elbow area, he has something that looks like staph, and something that I've been very wary of this year specifically, and I've tried to focus on this, is to never bet on the side, even with any risk of there being staph infection. But then when you have more confirmation with photos of him wrapping that same area in recent weeks, it's just also telling that it is staph. And when you have staph infection, for those who aren't aware, it's an infection that you have to take a lot of heavy antibiotics for, and antibiotics usually don't spell well for someone's cardio. And when you look at Leon's game, he's more of like a cardio kickboxer, likes to point fight, picks his shots at times and can be low volume, but for the most part, he likes to stay at distance and defend takedowns and throw counters. And when you're facing a heavy wrestling threat from the Sean Brady side, I think that's going to affect you as the rounds go by. And if it doesn't make it past the third and fourth round, how does Leon's cardio look there? We're yet to see it. We'll see on Saturday night, but I just don't think it's going to be all that well. And when you look at Leon's performance against someone with, I would say, a similar game plan to what Sean Brady is going to bring to the table, and Belal Muhammad, how was he able to take him down? He would push him against the cage, lift him, and then bring him down to the opposite side. And what does Sean Brady do? Sean Brady, in a video that you even just retweeted today of yourself demonstrating this, he pushes people against the cage, carries them up, and takes them away from the cage, which is so intelligent because a lot of these fighters like to use the cage to get back up. When you don't have that opportunity to get back up, using the cage, using your back, and just like to butt scoop, it's going to be tough for him to get up. And the difference between Belal and Brady is that Bilal's going to almost let you get back up so he can take you back down again and again. Whereas with Brady, he's going to be using the jiu-jitsu. And when it comes to the, go ahead and play it. We'll play it just so that the fans can see what I'm talking about here.
How Sean Brady gets his takedowns in the UFC. More often than not, he's leading out with this overhand right to get in close.
We'll give the live narration. We got our guy, Jack. Shout out to my training partner, Jack, from Henzo Gracie, BJJ of Warwick. Love the whole team there. But what we do, we throw that overhand just to bait him, right? I've actually talked to the coach, who helped show a lot of this stuff, Daniel Gracie, to Sean Brady and the crew, right? Like, they throw the fake overhand to back you up to the fence. And from there, that's when they get the lift series going. They're picking people up, so that way they get a dominant position away from the cage. How many guys wrestle somebody into the fence only to have the guy 2 seconds later use the fence as a third leg to stand back up to their feet? It's like, yeah, let's not do that. So he instead pushes them into the fence. And right here, watch how he gets to this double leg grip. And he's basically switching from single leg to double, now lift and slam into a dominant position. We can stop showing, but I hope that you guys got a good idea of that. It's an important factor to watch for. Please continue with.
Yeah, so the way Brady takes people down in that manner is not going to allow them to, use that cage as third leg and to get back up as easily. And let alone the jiu-jitsu of these Philly guys is, in my opinion, the best jiu-jitsu in the UFC currently. Shout out to all of the Philly Henzo Gracie gentlemen. Have shown massive improvements in the jiu-jitsu department and just have shown a lot of these fighters the difference between Brazilians and the jiu-jitsu game versus the American jiu-jitsu side. So I just think that the repetitive takedown threat of Brady's going to affect the cardio. And if that staph infection is going to affect Leon in the slightest, I think he's going to have a long night here. In the striking, I think Leon's the much better striker. That's not going to be a surprise to many. But the one thing that's common is when a striker is facing someone with a heavy wrestling threat and who's not known to have that good of a takedown defense, it almost makes them gun shy. And when you're gun shy going up against someone like Brady, who's going to out cardio you, out muscle you, it's going to be tough. You're going to get put on your ass at some point. with all due respect. And Leon is one of my favorite fighters just to watch in terms of technique. And I've emulated a lot of my game after Leon. Super clean with everything that he throws, but he can be gun shy when that wrestling threat is present. So I do find that Brady will have the wrestling success here in this matchup. I do think at some point he's going to be able to lock in some deep submissions on Leon Edwards, whether he finishes them or not. This is all going to tax the gas tank. And over a 5-round fight, I just trust Sean Brady's cardio a little bit more than drew a blank there, a little bit more than Leon's. So for all those reasons, I think Sean Brady is the rightful favorite here. I will be placing a bet on Sean Brady. I'm waiting to see if this line comes in a little bit more. I know some very highly respected cappers that are on the Leon side this week. And I do expect more money to be coming in on that side too. So I'm just waiting patiently to see what number I can truly get on Brady. If this does close in a little bit more, I'm ready to pull the trigger. So for all those reasons, give me Sean Brady. Give me Sean Brady by submission in a very impressive outing in London, announcing his entrance to the top 5.
I love where your head's at, my man. Irish-American Jiu-Jitsu is succeeding. Nothing better than that. Grit and guillotines the Irish-American way. When I look at this fight, I do really respect the game of both these fighters. You know, I think when you look at Leon Edwards, people don't always give him credit for the fact that he's a proven winner. You know, he's a guy that's made improvements over time. He lost the first time he fought Kamaru. I know everybody remembers their 2-fight series. They fought 3 times if you go all the way back. And Leon's just shown growth over time in the UFC. But has he always had moments of flaw? Yeah, and the lack of focus over the course of 25 minutes has been a recurring problem throughout his career. I think that when you look at a guy like Sean Brady, you know, he basically had one massive letdown performance. There's been other times he's been tested. He got jabbed up a little bit. His nose got busted. But ultimately, against other guys that pride themselves on their wrestling, their grappling, he's been able to take them down and beat them there, right? He was able to get some takedowns on Chiesa that mattered. He was able to go out there and take down Jake Matthews, submit a black belt against Jake Matthews. So there's been a lot of good from Sean Brady. Kelvin Gastelum, a guy who only against the best guys he's getting submitted by. And same thing happened there, right? He fought a very talented submission grappler. He got submitted there. So I think that when you look at a guy like Sean Brady, his submission grappling is excellent and some of the best in the UFC. You know, a lot of guys in the UFC cannot compete with guys that are on the modern professional grappling circuit in grappling matches. And it's not because they're not solid grapplers. It's just because one guy spends all day thinking about grappling and the other guy spends, you know, most of their day thinking about, you know, how do I get better at my striking, my this, my that, my whatever. It's like, it's just too many different things to think about. So I think when you look at a guy like Sean, he's very, very talented at the grappling, but his striking for me does leave a lot to be desired at the UFC level. There are guys that could piece him up at distance. And I think that we've seen that, right? We saw against Bilal Muhammad what was ultimately his undoing. I think there was 2 big things. Number one, the striking defense, ultimately the lack thereof, right? He was just way too stationary a target, too easy to hit, too easy to find, right? So if I'm going to be easy to hit where I stand, then I have to be able to move. So if I don't have good footwork and I'm not moving around and I'm staying where I'm at, like I have to either evade or I have to move in my stance, right? If I'm going to stay here, then I have to avoid shots. And there's just not a lot of that built into his game. He's trying to get better at that. Certainly improvements in the Gastelum fight, but this guy is basically a fighter that likes to be in the driver's seat. And when he is, man, car's going smooth, right? It's an easy ride. Watching him destroy Kelvin Gastelum, you just see how smooth his top pressure is, right? Some guys have good wrestling. Some guys have a good top game. For me, the difference between a guy like Colby Covington and a guy like, Sean Brady is Colby Covington's a very good wrestler, very good pace guy. His top game is shit. Always has been, right? Everybody gets up. Everybody stands back up. He's not holding somebody down. He didn't even attempt his wrestling against guys like Kamaru because he's like, what, I'm going to hold him down for 1 second and waste all this energy? No, thank you. So he's got a good rinse, repeat, spin cycle. but his top game is average at best. Like not like in the UFC, it's certainly not above average, right? So when I look at a guy like Covington, that for me was his big hang up against Leon. Like where is his real advantage? He proceeded to get out wrestled by the British, right? Like he actually got out wrestled by Leon. I don't think that's happening here. Like I would be very, very surprised if Leon out wrestles Sean Brady. I think that what Leon does well is he does a good job of negating a lot of dominant positions from people. So we've seen in the past guys that try and wrestle and grapple with Leon, he finds ways to keep them in, like half a clinch. He's turned off to the side. He's throwing knees. He's making you pay for some of your entries. He does clever things like that. But what have we also seen? It was the same undoing for both of these guys against Belal Muhammad. What did Belal do? Pressured. Neither one of them liked it. But who is the better pressure fighter out of these two? And I think that the answer is Sean Brady, because Sean Brady has a style where he wants to press forward and grapple you. And the problem against Belal was that he was unable to wrestle and grapple Belal successfully. So now he was rendered useless because his game is to press forward. And imagine I'm pressing forward with no chance to take you down, and I don't want to strike. Well, then what am I doing? I'm just walking into oncoming traffic. And that is exactly what happened in that fight. And that's why Sean Brady's the only guy to ever get TKO'd by Belal Muhammad standing like that in the UFC. It's because he literally, like his style was unraveled by Belal's style. The difference with Leon is Leon's was a much more competitive fight, right? But ultimately, the same thing was the undoing, which was the pressure. Leon's response to pressure is normally to, like, for lack of a better word, start feeling sorry for himself. So start having negative body language, start having self-doubt, needing pep talks in between rounds and shit, like from his coaches, like, hey man, wake up, get back in the fight, begging him. I mean, the Rocky speech was awesome because I had a lot of fucking money on the guy and I really needed him to wake the fuck up and try and fight him again. But just in general, like I'm a coach. I don't want to have to scream at you, in between rounds and try and convince you to go out there and win your own matches. Like I'd hope that you already want to win the match, right? So that for me is the one thing that, I don't like about Leon, and I never have. Like I like Leon as a dog in general, just because he's a guy who's typically underrated in terms of his skill set, or at least he was historically. And he's got very well-rounded skills, right? Like everybody was just like, oh, he's from England, so he can't fight. And I was like, no, I don't know. Did you guys watch the fights? Like, he's pretty fucking good. But when it comes down to it, man, Colby's taking him down, just can't hold him down. He did some good, clever things to get back up to his feet. But I wasn't like, no one can take him down. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, guys can take him down. Then you look and you say, okay, what about Usman? I watched Usman suck the life out of the arena for minute upon minute upon minute. He did dominate Usman in the first round, which everybody has memory holds, but that happened in their, I'm not talking about the third fight. I'm talking about the rematch. The rematch, he dog walked Usman that first round. He took him down, flat backed him into the full mount. It was sick. And I was like, we can't wrestle with Usman? What? We can't wrestle with it? But then we proceeded to get dominated into the fence over and over. Leon's getting taken down. He's getting taken down. He's getting pressed into the fence. And man, looking negative body language, feeling sorry for himself, all these negative traits. Dude, the difference for me is Usman's knees were gone. So he literally couldn't take him down. He was like, I could just press him into the fence. I could just hold him. Sean Brady, man, is strong as an ox. He is going to try to put this guy on the fence. And if he does, he, in my humble opinion, will lift him up, turn him sideways, and slam him to the ground. Now, Leon has good regarding. He may get up to his feet a couple times. Maybe that's enough to win the fight. But I do think the longer that fight extends, the more likely it is that Sean Brady wins it. And the reason I say that is because Sean Brady is not comfortable in a fight that is primarily striking oriented. And if he is in that kind of fight, he will lose. But if he is in a primarily grappling oriented fight, he has superior cardio to Leon in that environment. And we've actually seen that That was the problem against Bilal, is that Bilal tired him out. I honestly don't even think Bilal was like better than Leon at any aspect of MMA. He just fought a better game plan. He did tactically the right things at the right time, made better choices, and outthought him, and showed up more prepared on the night. And like all those things, it's a one-time test, right? You don't get 5 cracks at this most of the time. It's like, did you know what to do today? And Bilal came ready for more answers on the test that day. So shout out to our guy Capping Service, very sharp guy. Says Leon never been finished in 26 pro fights. Should be the favorite. Almost finished Bilal in round 5. I think that's fair play. I do think that is a decent argument for him. Listen, if I had to make a play on this fight, like based on what is likely to be the long-term plus EV side, I do think it's Leon based on what we know pre-fight. But my gut feeling is that Sean Brady's going to get the takedowns here. The last intangible I want to touch on, because I know it's getting late and I want to respect your time as well. The last intangible is this. I have this weird feeling in terms of my concerns for Sean Brady that he does not like the boo birds, that he does not like to be the bad guy. Everybody likes to be the good guy. It's hard to be the bad guy. Not everybody's got it in them. And I say this, watching pro wrestling, mixed martial arts, all kinds of athletics. Like some guys are hated and they can lean into it and just be a bigger draw for television and everything else. But they don't want that. They want everybody to like them, which makes them even more hated. You want a perfect example? Go back and watch Daniel Cormier and John Jones, because John Jones is just exactly who he is. A guy that doesn't give a shit whether you like him or not, because he's a fucking scumbag sociopath, right? And people like that about him because it's exactly who he is. And meanwhile, Daniel Cormier, who does have an edge to him, at the end of the day, but who is also a nice guy and wants to be a positive media figure, he's getting booed. And he's like, I've never done drugs one time in my life and whatever. And you boo me. And he's been sober for 1 week and you cheer him. And they're like, yeah, like whatever. It's about relatability. And man, I just say to myself, like, you look at a guy like Sean Brady, and you could watch exactly the emotions he's feeling walking out to a place where everybody's basically chanting like, fuck you, you're going to die. No one wants to see you succeed. He's like, all right, I'm going to fail. Like, and it just, you could see it like spiraling in his head before the fight even starts. Like, I didn't love his confidence there. You could see it like, he's like, oh, why am I here? I don't want to be here. I'm uncomfortable. That's what I'm afraid of, is like, if he is having any negative results, right? Like he gets stuffed on 2 takedowns, they're going to go crazy. They're going to go ape shit cheering for Leon. And that could be the kind of thing where like psychologically you're like, oh no, it's happening again. Oh shit. Like that's the one thing that makes me afraid for Sean. So I am going to keep my money probably clear of this fight and root for Sean because I like Sean and I think that he's a great fighter. And I think that he doesn't get the respect that he deserves because of the loss against Bilal. But when it comes down to it, the more proven guy is Leon. But part of this is about observing potential. And I do think the potential is real with Sean Brady. I've been impressed with what I've seen. A lot of people told me there's no way he could grapple with Gilbert Burns. There's no way he's going to take down Gilbert Burns. There's no way he stay on top of Gilbert Burns. And he did exactly that. And if you go back and look, guys, did Khamzat Chimaev do that? No. He took him down. He got into that guard and he said, yo, fuck this. I don't need this shit in my life. And he got back up and he said, let's do it on the feet again where you just drop me. Like, I'd rather do that. So I just feel like when you look at it, I think Leon is the more dangerous kicker, right? Ulysses in the chat says, watch out for the teep and question mark kick. I think that the kicks in general of Leon are dangerous weapons. You got to be very respectful of those. He's got power in his hands from time to time, right? He's got an 8-second knockout on his resume. Like Leon can get it done. But when you just look at like a lot of the minutes of his recent fights, it's him getting grappled, getting controlled, having some negative body language, feeling sorry for himself. And I don't think you can afford to do those things against Sean. So I want to see his media persona this week. I want to see how Sean acts all week, because if his confidence isn't on 100%, it's a non-starter for me, honestly. But if he is ready to go dialed in and doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks about him, doesn't care about the boo birds, I think he has the skills to win this fight. So ultimately, that's my pick, but it's a reluctant one, man. I love Leon. Leon will always have a special place in my heart. I'll tell you guys the briefest anecdote. I'm sitting on the back deck. I'm listening to the Rocky soundtrack. Dun, 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 all these things, right? All my friends all have money on this. I'm telling them, I'm like, this is the spot. And all the enthusiasm's out of the room. Everybody's starting to get depressed. I literally was like, guys, I'm going to turn off this stupid music. Like, we don't need this shit no more. Turn off the music. Not 20 seconds later, the man is out snoring, upright, laying on his back. And I'm just looking at them, looking at her. I'm like, is this real? Are we all dreaming? Is this real? Great moment as a MMA fan. And a great moment, to be on the Leon side. Leon ITD plus 450, paid handsomely that evening. They did not ask what round. They just paid the coins all the same. So, man, should be a good one. I'm excited to see how this shakes out. Legacy maker for Leon, right? Kind of a disheartening way to lose the title, right? Like, just dropped it in kind of lackluster fashion at home, let it slip through his fingers, not the performance that he wanted. So this is a make or break type of fight coming off of that. And it's not an easy one, man.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight to see, because I do agree that both these guys do have their mental flaws. So
yeah, a lack of concentration. We got ADHD against anxiety and depression. So it should be a fucking great brawl, man. It's really just a parlance for American life. But my man, why don't you tell the people where they can find you, anything that you've got going on, anything that you want to get off your chest? The floor is yours, my friend.
First and foremost, thanks again for having me. Third straight week, looking forward to the next one and the next one and the next one. I'm always happy to come on here and break down some fights with my guy Liam, and we've been crushing it. So looking forward to this card, and I think we have some pretty sharp reads. Overall, wanted to thank the chat too for requesting me over and over again. It means a lot, and I've just started to come back into the content space and looking to do a bit more, especially after these camps go away. But yeah, you guys can follow me everywhere on Wizz MMA, Twitter, and YouTube. But yeah, other than that, I'm looking forward to bringing back more quality breakdowns and more quality fight picks. So I'll see you guys next time.
Hell yeah, my brother. I want to say this, guys. Last week, plus 1.77 units. The last time I had a track bet before that was Rob Font against John Matsumoto. We have kept a pretty tight set of plays this year, right? I'm not firing every play every time, trying to just look for plus money opportunities, people that are going to go out there, fight hard for my dollar. AJ Cunningham, was he a very good fighter? No. Did I bet a lot on him? No. Did he fight hard for my money? Yes. Check the box. Daniel Barras, was he super well equipped to win the fight? In hindsight, no, he was not. Did he go out there and fight hard for my dollar from start to finish? Yes, he absolutely did. Cody Gibson, same criteria. Absolutely. So, yes, I did give back, what was that? 1 unit, right, of potential profit playing into these big plus money dogs. But otherwise, my big bets were on the under, which cashed quite easily with 2 knockdowns in the first round. I know that the pace wasn't great, but I felt like anytime Vallejos landed, he was live to knock him out. As soon as he landed, he almost knocked him out. He got back up. He knocked him out. That was the end of that. So I felt pretty good about that read. Cash there at plus 108 and then plus 135. Kutateladze in the main event. I said that he beat Vettori the last time. Absolute vindication. We got it back in blood. And now, there's no doubt. So I think that maybe if we get a trilogy in the future, Kutateladze will be a favorite finally, and it'll be rightfully so. But in any case, you look back, that Rob Font fight, close fight. But what did he do? Fight like a dog for my money. Plus 132. Can't ask for more than that. So this year, focus is on proven commodities, fighters that are going to go out there, fight hard for my money, value. That's it. If I can check those boxes, I feel good about it. Win, lose, or draw. So been a couple of good weeks, but we always say on this show, never let your highs get you too high. Never let your lows get you too low. ride that middle path, ladies and gentlemen. We got plenty of fights this year coming up, and we got great fights on Saturday. So let's dig in. Let's find our spots. Let's pick our spots, most importantly. God bless each and every one of you guys. Good luck with all your action if you decide to take any. And if you don't, and you just tune in for the analysis, peace, love, and chicken grease to you anyways. So make sure you tune back in next week. Hit subscribe so you don't have to come find us. Drop a like to show a little love and support. Make sure that you find my guy Wizz. By the way, he's all linked up in the description down below. That's all I got for you today, guys. Take care. Until next time, come back because we're having all the same fun again. See you, everybody.